My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs Dispatch, the Patreon premium episode where we answer your questions, talk about your topics, and read your responses.
Yeah, and then at the end, being coy boys, we're going to announce what we're going to be covering in March. So not next month, but the March after next. It is, yeah. Oh, that's a heads up for folks.
I was going to do that, yeah. Thank you for picking up on my segue.
Yeah. No, so we're doing, so sometimes over on Bonfireside Chat, the bonus show that we do about the Dark Souls series, we occasionally do some stuff that is like Watch Out for Fireballs. Like last year we did Eco. Over there, because that was an influence on the creator of Dark Souls. And this year, actually, in the run-up to Elden Ring, we are going to be covering the original Legend of Zelda. And as you're hearing that, I think this episode comes out this weekend. If you're listening to this on, the early feed. Yeah.
So if you are a patron at the $5 level, you're getting those episodes regardless. I understand if you're not a big fan of the Dark Souls games, but we've done quite a few non-Dark Souls games over there. There's crossover content, and Zelda 1 was something that I had as a vanity pick I wanted to do this year anyway. So this worked out really well for this.
And then the two episodes after that, we're doing Returnal, which is a big marquee game that otherwise, if we were not covering it there, likely would have been covered here at some point. Yeah. So, especially if you're already a patron, you're already paying for it. Yeah.
And you want more stuff, you may as well grab it. The lines between the shows are blurred. And then we're going to get into Elden Ring. If you're not playing Elden Ring, that will have limited interest to you.
Yeah. Then I would recommend listening to Unfilmable. We're in a good run there.
Yes. There's always somewhere to go. There's always a backup plan. Let no one say that we don't make a lot of content. And if we stop making content, we die.
Yep. We're sharks.
We are sharks. If you look at these two boys, you think sharks.
Sharks.
Look at those two fat beached sharks.
Not sunfish. Yeah.
Let's answer some questions.
Let's do. I'll get us started here with Doug, who says, with Pinocchio Souls on the horizon. I forgot about Pinocchio Souls. Geppetto's Revenge.
If nobody had told me that game was Pinocchio, I think it would look cool. The fact that it's Pinocchio, I hate it.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. I just, anyway, the little preview to my answer to Doug's question.
I'll just restart there because I had my soul left my body 4 words in. With Pinocchio Souls on the horizon and American McGee's Atlas games, there seems to be a market for gritty versions of fairy tales and kids media. Is there such a property you think would make for a good adaptation? And what would that look like?
I don't know, because I think those are pretty gross. Okay, I think those feel like those to me are the video game equivalent of a punk cover of Puff the Magic Dragon.
Right. Yeah, that's a good comparison.
And I hate that stuff. I think that kind of thing is just feels like a really cheap irony.
Yeah, it's like when a Perfect Circle covered Imagine, but they did it in minor key.
Yes, yeah, it's that kind of thing, and I find that stuff really roll eyes.
Yeah,
in a way that is, and if you dig it, more power to you. I just can't get over, my initial feeling of revulsion of what if the 3 little bears, but they were really McFarland up.
Right. With what if they were full of human blood? Like, there was no meat inside. There was no bone. It was just bear blood. It was just them. Yeah. Let's get Screaming Mad George on the case.
It's too twisted. This porridge is just twisted enough.
This porridge is a twisted fire starter.
Yeah, this porridge is a twisted ice starter. This porridge is just a medium starter. It's the one I want.
Like, I don't know that this would necessarily need to be darker, but if it's what it takes to get what I'm going to describe, then make it happen. Take Humpty Dumpty, but then just like have that be a very superficial wrapper on a good and competent home port of Rampart.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just instead of so you've got to build up your walls again, right? But also you got to use some of your time to put Humpty back together. And if Humpty's all broken, then yeah. So that's my answer.
I'm glad I'm not a human egg.
It would be pretty rough.
It seems like it'd be really rough.
According to certain criminal guidelines, your head is an egg. Yeah.
Yeah,
the eggshell doctrine.
Skull.
Yeah,
absolutely. That stuff's wild to me. So Phil asks, in comparing Super Mario Bros. 3 to Super Mario World, you mentioned how the latter intrinsically motivates exploration as opposed to doing it through items. What are some of the ways you think that game designers have successfully cultivated motivation in you as gamers? In addition to Super Mario World rewarding exploration with more gameplay, I'm thinking things like Dark Souls building its combat so there are multiple ways to succeed, Zelda and Super Metroid allowing the player to bump up against the impenetrable to provide the motivation to find the thing, or Breath of the Wild inspiring through the aesthetics of the world.
I think those are all pretty good examples. Yeah.
Yeah. Dark Souls would have been my answer to this. I've said it before, but I think the Painted World is one of my favorite things that has ever happened in games. The confidence of putting your most masterfully designed world as a absolutely hidden secret.
Yeah.
That most players will miss. And the reward for doing it is doing it.
Yeah.
That is the best thing. I think that you can do is just, I want more level. Hollow Knight does a great job of that.
Yep.
No reason to go to the bee zone.
Nope.
But you just do it because you want to see the bees and you want to check out the zone. There's a couple little power-ups in there, but that's not really why you're doing it.
No, you're going there to see it and you're going there to experience it. Yeah. I think that all the examples that Phil gave end up ultimately coming down to the Super Mario World example, which is give me more game at the end of this, or give me a different way to experience this game. Unveil some mystery to me, pull this back and reveal that it is more generous than it is. So like a power up, or like a new weapon or whatever, depending on what it does, that could just be like a marginal upgrade. It may be like a new way to interact with enemies that you didn't think about before, sometimes all that kind of stuff can happen. I think that all of it comes down to giving me more, or making it feel like there's more by making stuff that I've already done feel different if I go do it again.
Yes. And stay tuned for the topic, which we'll talk about kind of some of the dark side about that. I think the important thing is optionalness.
Yes.
It being something that you can opt into.
Yeah. Vaping with Dad says,
good name.
I love that. Says, I've been listening to a podcast that's currently discussing Final Fantasy Tactics, and it got me thinking, this game is great. It's a shame that Square never bothered to do anything with it ever again. Yeah, triangle strategy could be fun, but I can't imagine the story will be great. Are there other examples you can think of where a series experimented with the game, either with a spin-off or a mechanic within the game, knocked it out of the park, and then promptly forgot about it? In addition, can you think of any other series where the best game is a spin-off title?
The best Dragon Quest game is Dragon Quest Rocket Slime.
Agreed.
There you go. I think there's a pretty good argument that the best Pokemon game is the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but as somebody who has fallen slowly out of love with the mainline games, because they're repetitive, I still think that card game is really fun.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you can just go away from that game for years and years and years, and you can just return to it because absence makes the heart grow fonder, as opposed to every year there's a new Pokemon game out where you're constantly evaluating, oh, I think I should get that so I can be part of the conversation, and then remember the last 5 or 6 that you've bought pretty much since Pearl and Diamond.
Yes.
Which is like really
incremental upgrades to any of the mechanics.
Yeah.
Like they became playable over the course of like 2 decades. And I say this as somebody who has enjoyed several of the Pokemon entries, and like I generally like those weird little guys. But I just the tedium and the ease of use just trickling in is something I have less patience for.
Yeah,
as an adult.
It kills me that there are Rocket Slime games that we have not played that just were never brought over here because that was such a wild, like that was just part of the exuberance of the early DS era.
Speaking of which, this is kind of related. Yeah, I realized that at one of the last PRGEs we went to, I bought a little repro cart of a translated ROM of the Pokemon trading card game sequel.
Oh, nice.
That I've never played.
Shit, dude.
I gotta try that at some point. Yeah, I know. It's in terms of like, so those are the examples I can think of. I'm with you in terms of Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't know whether triangle strategy, what that will be like. I can't imagine the story will be great because I don't trust Squaresoft's storytelling skills anymore.
Right.
But I hope that triangle strategy isn't descriptive of the strategy, which is really basic, but if they're taking like I hate the weapon triangle.
Yeah, they're doing Fire Emblem, Advance War kind of deal. Yeah.
I hate that. I think it's really shallow and shitty. And just not, I don't like that. I really hope they're not doing that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that I can think of a better example than Final Fantasy Tactics. I know that's probably a bit of a cop out, but like, a lot of this might just come down to, just there are series that veered away from being the kind of game that I liked, and I wish they would go back to the one that I like, and that doesn't feel right. Yeah.
An example of a game that has a lot of those, we talked about this, is Might and Magic. Because the Might and Magic spinoffs are all pretty neat. They went off in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Nathan N asks, you guys often say that people should put down a game if they're not having fun. Life is short, and there's so much variety out there to actually enjoy. However, I'm curious if either of you have examples where you've ignored your own advice, other than games for the show, and powered through a game you're not enjoying. What were these games, and why did you keep playing?
It's really...
Absolutely. I've done that a bunch.
Yeah.
It sucks. I stopped, but before I stopped, I did. The first game I remember this with, I've talked about this before. The very first game was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Yeah.
The very first time I realized I'm having no fun with this, but I'm just going to keep plugging away.
Yeah.
I did that with the Ghostbusters 360.
Oh, the one that they just like remastered or re-released?
Yeah. I'm like amazed they remastered that because it's dog shit. I don't know why. Like what the demand was for that. It's like the stub zombie.
Yeah.
Like just, everything that you didn't, destroy all humans. Everything that you didn't think, didn't really want is all now coming back in remastered form.
Yep. Yeah.
But that Ghostbusters game is very tedious. And I remember I was playing it and I was like, this is just like a shitty FPS. This is not very Ghostbusters-y and the jokes are not good. Why am I still doing this? But still just like, well, gotta beat it. I'm probably like 2/3 of the way through. May as well. And I got nothing for doing that. Like I got no satisfaction. I got no good feelings. So that was, those were 2 really instrumental examples to me realizing like, I don't have to keep playing stuff that I don't like.
Yeah. I have to go back a long way to get to this because I've been cutting bait on games for a while. And of stuff for the show. Because I could say like, oh yeah, like there are games that I finished streaming, when I wasn't really having any fun. I was doing that for content, so that kind of disqualifies it. But also, that suffering is kind of the point too. I'm gonna set my nose to the grindstone and get it done. So we can all get through it together, right? But like, I don't know. I probably, through the first 3 Halo games. I think I only beat one of them, and I got like I stuck with the single player campaigns on those for a very long time. repetitive and nonsense as they are. Way longer than I rightfully should have, based on how much fun I was, deriving. Like I didn't internalize that, like, oh, this is a disc that you have so that when people come over, you can play it with them. Or we're gonna need a second disc to set up the other Xbox with the LAN party, right? I thought that because I had this in my house, I had to finish it.
That was really the thing. And I've been thinking a lot lately about the other direction, where I've started feeling that, the old pain of the anxiety of how many games I have that I haven't fucked with.
Yeah.
So part of me is like, I should find a balance a little bit better. Because right now I am sitting on, many lifetimes worth of games that I'll never be able to play.
Yeah.
But it is a balance. Like, the idea that you have to beat everything you have, I think, is silly.
Mm-hmm. But also having a bunch of stuff that is just there as psychic weight is not necessarily good. It's just a matter of, like, how just sometimes when you can't figure out what you want to eat, you go shopping in your pantry.
Yes.
I have tried to think about, going to my shelf, shopping on my, PS4 game shelf, shopping in my Steam library, when I'm picking stuff out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That is the way.
Mm-hmm. This is me. Nicholas says, I have recently discovered the YouTube black hole of retro handheld consoles. Do you guys have any experience with these devices, or do you stick to playing your ROMs on your PCs? My answer is short. I've been curious about it. Like, people have recommended a handful of like retro emulator handhelds. And I've looked at them and then saw like weird compatibility things, and I'm like, I'm fine. I can just continue playing them on my computers.
I have a little flash cart for my 3DS.
Okay.
That is kind of a dedicated Retro Game Challenge 2 disc, basically.
Yeah.
I use it for that, and I use it every once in a while for some other things, but generally I don't mess with this too much. Just because of convenience.
Yeah.
Like, I've actually got a little retro handheld that I've only played a little bit of. I can't even remember the model because I got it a while back.
Yeah.
And it is probably outmoded and stuff. It was a bout of retail therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I was curious about like the what was it? The Pocket Analog or whatever it is. Or the Analog Pocket. And no, that wouldn't be practical. That would just be a very well-made objet d'art. To have around, a very expensive one. So I talked myself out of that, and I used that money instead to pre-order a Playdate. So
yeah. It's that old pain. Like, if I add all of the retro games I want to play or replay onto, my psychic load.
Yeah. Put it in your bindle.
My psychic bindle, that's going to be problematic.
Right.
I don't want to do it.
Oh.
Joshua says, is the Silent Hill HD remaster really that bad? I really want to play Silent Hill 3 because I love the thick and dreary aesthetic of that game, but as a console owner and not a PC owner, it's impossible to get hold of the original. Will the HD remaster suffice? Yeah, I think so. It's not great, but it's like...
Short answer is yes with an if. Long answer is no with a but. No. So go ahead.
I fucked around with that.
Yeah.
Like, when I first got it, it's not how I played it for the show.
Right.
But I played that when I first started it, and it's like all those things I think, like, where they're shitty ports, like, it is a shitty port. It's not good, but if the choices don't do it at all, I think you should still play Silent Hill 3. It's not great. It's a worse experience.
Yeah.
But the choice is no experience versus compromise. Choose the compromise is my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you in spirit. I can also only speak to the PS3 version of this. I don't think I've ever played the 360 one. I know that people talk about there being some kind of difference or another. Some of the complaints from back around launch are no longer accurate. They did patch in the old voices. So if you don't want Troy Baker voicing James Sunderland, you can swap him out. Visually, it's not going to look the same, but you're still going to get the feel for it. I doubt you were going to be like super immersed into it anyway. And also immersion's a little bit of a, it's a bit of a red herring. The big caution on this is that at least on the PlayStation 3, the Silent Hill 3 port is not just like bad in an inaccurate way. It really, really chugs. And it's not just the frame rate that like messes with it aesthetically. It's a frame rate so low that it affects input. So you're going to end up taking a lot of hits and like overshooting when you're trying to navigate and run around and stuff, and it's going to feel very bad. So that would be my thing. You go into it expecting Silent Hill 2 to be serviceable and worth it, and Silent Hill 3 may just be something that you try and then bounce out of until you find a way to emulate it.
Yeah, worth a shot.
Yes.
Again, if the option is not doing it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also I haven't checked the price. I know that the physical versions of the PS2 discs astronomically expensive now. I think that the HD re-release is also getting pretty expensive.
It didn't used to be, at the very least.
No. I picked it up used for like $17, but that's not the case anymore, I don't think.
Bummer.
Yeah. Let's see here. Fermented Sorcerer says, I'm a long-time organic vegetable farm manager, so I find myself around a lot of folks who have never played video games or have a negative impression of them. As a result, I spend a good amount of time having to defend video games and debunk typical anti-video game rhetoric. Do y'all ever have to defend video games, even your careers, from anti-video game rhetoric? If so, what do they say? And then as a bit of a kicker here, they ask, do video games even deserve to be defended? I wouldn't take a bullet for video games.
No. Nothing deserves to be defended.
Right.
In terms of a medium. Like, they're not people.
Yeah.
If I ran into somebody and they're just like, oh, fucking gamers, like, yes, that's not true. Right. Like here's a really good example of how I run into this, or have run into this in the past. Living in a city and stuff, like most people I know and interface with are fine with video games or fans. When I am on dating sites, when I'm not partnered, you will run into people who otherwise seem interesting, who are like no gamers, who are turned off by it. I'll be like, I'll say what I do for a living, and then you'll respond like ... Oh, you probably play a lot of video games. I'm like, yeah, and then they don't like it.
Right.
That's not accurate. Me doing video games for a job means that I think that I'm like, I talk about it less outside of work.
Yeah.
I think that I'm encouraged to be more well-rounded. They're inaccurate, but I let them be wrong because it's not worth the energy to try to convince them.
It's their prerogative.
Yeah, it's their prerogative. It doesn't hurt me. I don't feel offended by them being wrong about that.
Yeah.
So to my mind, I'm not trying to, patronize or say, but you are asking for advice. If I were in your situation, I would just kind of smile and be like, yeah, sometimes it do be like that.
Yep.
And then just go about my business.
Yeah.
Continue the conversation. I assume that you're a well-rounded person who has other interests as well. They are clearly not interested in this specific interest of yours. Find that common ground and then speak to that.
Yeah. You probably have other stuff in common, depending on where and how you're meeting these people. Like if they're insulting you because of it, that isn't about their like relationship or opinion of video games. Like they're the kind of person who would insult. Yeah, that's a dick right there. Is that
right
person?
There you got a dick.
Yeah, that's your problem. Yeah,
your dick dar's off, man. Well, I'm Dick Dar.
Hi, I'm Dick Dar.
Dick Dar. I personally don't find myself in these situations very much. Usually like back when I worked around people like in an office or met with clients or whatever, and if the topic came up, it'd be like, oh yeah, either I don't know anything about that, I used to play it, or I have younger relatives who do, and then we talk about something else. It doesn't need to be defended. And you don't have to trap somebody in a room until they change their mind. Yeah. And it's not, this is not me being a self-hating gamer. This is true to me of anything.
Different people have different relationships. There are people who are just fine with, watching sports and stuff. And there are people who paint their bodies, and stand out in the freezing cold,
Yeah. And just if I'm in a lift, if I'm interfacing with somebody who is not a friend, and they have an opinion about that kind of stuff, I just don't, the same way that I don't try to change their mind about sports.
Yeah.
Like they don't, I'm not going to attack them about that. If I say like, I'm not really into sports, and they then turn around and we're like, oh, actually sports are really cool and important. I'd be like, are you fucking high? Like, what are you doing? Like, defending this to me, you weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
like,
did
yes.
you see the big game? I'm not really into basketball. Well, actually, basketball is a really important way to. Excuse me.
Well, I didn't realize I was talking with a fascist. Whoa, what?
Yeah.
That escalates. Yeah, if somebody's like honestly disrespecting something you like, or how you spend your time, or tearing you down for it, that is an interpersonal problem on their part. It's not something that you need to attack through the avenue of video games.
Yeah. And the thing you just said, there's two different things in that. Like somebody disrespecting something you like and then tearing you down are two different things. Like if you're like, someone is like, what are you into? And you're like, oh, I like to play video games. And then they're like, man, I hate video games. Yeah. That's one thing, and that's fine. That's the kind of thing you let go. If they're like, oh, you probably live in your parents' basement or some shit, then it's like, well, this person's maybe kind of a dick.
Yeah.
They're extending it to the person. And that's always the thing is like things don't need defending.
Yep.
Media doesn't need defending. Concepts don't need defending. People need defending.
Yeah. This is
and that's the jump.
Yes. If it crosses the blood-brain barrier, in that way, if it passes through that membrane, suddenly we're having this weird little like proxy war and fighting our Pokemons, and that is not a good or healthy interaction. Like maybe you could dig in further and say like, oh, like who did you know who really like did that? Like who did you wrong?
Who hurt you? Yeah.
And maybe not in so many words, but like they probably had somebody who was or hurt them maybe. But also if this is somebody who's in a lift, you're probably not going to finish that by the time you get to the airport. So maybe you can change the topic to like, oh, is there a big event where people are in?
Yeah. When I ran into it on dating sites, it was a lot of times women who had gamer boyfriends who were shitty.
It was wow widows. Yeah,
wow widows. Like that's all they did. And I could take the time to explain like that's not who I am. But it just wasn't worth it.
Right.
John asks, I just want to thank you all for introducing me to the wonders of Tim and Eric. Currently watching through On Cinema. As you all probably know, Greg has an elaborate catalog system for his VHS movies. Considering you all discuss a ton of games, just wondering if you have a catalog system for your physical games.
It's not a system. Cool. I have lots of physical games. Anything older than the PS4, I keep the cases just in Rubbermaid totes, and I have them in like little booklets, like the actual discs and booklets, to make sure they take up less space. Sorted alphabetically, within the systems, but like on the shelf itself, I don't even bother like separating, PS4 from Xbox One, from Xbox Series X to PS5. It just all goes up there alphabetically. And the ones that I have beaten are on one shelf, and the ones that I have yet to beat are on another.
Yeah.
Which
I do not.
That may be overkill, but it doesn't feel like overkill to me, at least in comparison to the Victorville Film Archive.
Yeah. As a Greg head, I got nothing bad I can say about the Victorville Film Archive. Runtime is the second most important thing about a movie.
Yep. Sorry if it runs.
Just the number. Again, topic.
Oh God, so good. Yeah. But it's fun. It's satisfying. I like going through and looking at the shelf. I have done the thing where I like sorted them did the high fidelity and sorted them in the order that I got them, but alphabetical is good. Yeah. Let's see. Let's do some other topics. Do you think? And then,
sure.
And then get here. So Greg writes, remember the movie Total Recall? Regardless if it's the original or the remake, the premise is the same. Rather than going through the time, expense, hassle, or perhaps safety issues of going on a real trip, a company can implant the memories and feelings of that trip and make it cheaper, safer, and easier than the real thing. Imagine that a company came in to do this for other things in life, video games, books, and movies, etc. Would you do it? And Greg says that he would because of his huge backlog. Maybe.
First of all, how dare you? Do I remember Total Recall? I think if this was the Old West, I'd shoot you for that. Do I remember Total Recall? I live and breathe Total Recall.
Yeah.
I know Total Recall.
The past few times that I've been, there have been like family gatherings over at my mom and stepdad's house. The conversation with my stepdad about like what our favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie has come up. He really loves he just wants to make sure that we know that Predator is his favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and he's seen all of them. You know,
okay,
and
real good stepdad stuff.
And Chris and I unite against him and say Total Recall, obviously, right?
Yeah, and Predator's great.
Yeah,
but Total Recall.
Yeah, and just it's
seen Total Recall. Like
it's a conversation that happens multiple times. That has happened multiple times, and I assure you will happen again.
Yeah, I need to have that conversation with your stepdad. Tag me in, coach. Total Recall is incredible. I love that movie.
Paul Verhoeven, come on.
Yeah, I would do this in an instant if it were optional. And then I would choose like 90% of my Steam library and just instantly do this.
Yeah. I don't see a downside. You know, I don't think it would be hollow. You know, if I wanted to experience something as the me, and that's what the story gets into is, or I mean, that's
the existential question.
Yeah, and then I don't know if I'm going to run around and say it actually really doesn't matter if we're in a simulation. I also need to say it doesn't matter if that's real or fake. If you have the memory, it's a part of you. So yeah, I do it. I've got other stuff to do.
To me, it just goes down to the classic like Duckfeed axiom that I keep talking about, is that the choice isn't the ideal version versus the compromised version. The choice is the compromised version versus no version. Mm-hmm. So I would do this on things I would never get a chance to play. Like, yes, I would be getting a lesser version, arguably, but who cares? Because the alternative is nothing.
Yeah. You know, learning Kung Fu is, it's not just knowing how to do kicks real good. It's also the life practice and the discipline, et cetera, et cetera. But, sometimes Neo just needs to have that knowledge put into the back of his head so he can go do stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't apply to Ultima Underworld 1. Like, it's not a discipline. I have to go to my gamer dojo. Yeah. And think about all the the morbid curiosity you have for games.
Oh, yeah.
Like Thief 4. Mm-hmm. I don't want to play Thief 4, but I kind of want to have had played Thief 4.
I kind of have a version of this, which is just like vaguely following Twitter buzz around games when they release. I kind of have like a Rolodex card on a lot of these. So I wouldn't even need to sign up for this service. I can spout off half-cocked about anything.
It's like how Will breathlessly refreshes Wikipedia to find the synopsis for Ghostbusters Afterlife. He's like never going to see it, right? But he just has to. He really wants to know what it's about.
Of course,
it's similar to that, except it'd be like richer and more magical and Total Recall.
Yeah, it would definitely make me more effective at this job. Right. If I had that knowledge base and I was able to, synthesize and draw connections between things and, yeah, I would do it. I don't see a downside.
It would be rough for this job just because of the temptation.
Yeah.
It'd be like, man, I could just.
Just rest on my laurel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That falls back to games that I have that I have played many times before. I will still sit down and play them.
Yes,
for the show. Like I will go through them mostly so I can take notes on them, but also it kind of feels like that is, it needs to be fresh. Like that is something I professionally feel obligated to do. So
yeah, and replaying games is a joy.
Yeah,
like I understand there are people who don't have that. They don't like replaying games at all. Mm-hmm. I really like it. I find it fun. I usually get something new out of it.
Yeah.
Ellie asks, I'm a college student with a full-time job. What tips do you have to keep your hobbies fun? When I have time to do what I love, I feel guilty for being lazy, which ruins the hobby. How do you get over this hump? That's rough stuff. Feeling guilty for doing anything that isn't productivity is a capitalist plot and shitty. And a lot of smarter people than us have talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's 100% a real thing. You are not alone in that.
Yeah.
That is a really common feeling. So at the very, first of all, don't feel weird about that because everybody feels it.
And everybody struggles with that, or, is varying levels of successful at it at different times throughout their lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sucks. It fucking sucks. And it's an ongoing concern, at least for me. I've been really sick. I think that I had the COVID. I don't know for sure. My girlfriend tested positive and I was exposed to her and I had some symptoms, but not all the marquee symptoms.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell, but I've been sick. Like last week has been really sucky. I couldn't really do very much. And the guilt I was feeling about not doing things was real and stupid. Like my job was to survive and I was still feeling like my job was to get ahead on work and, keep my house clean and do all of these things. The only advice I've ever had for that, and this is not good advice, has always been just to will myself out of it.
Yeah.
I just have to think it and be like, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. And then just kind of push my way through it.
Yeah. I think that feeling guilty that you are not taking time to enjoy yourself can become its own kind of misery.
That's true too. Yeah.
That is, it cuts basically the same way as feeling guilty that you're not being productive with your time. And this is really hard during college too. I think that this, like so many things, ultimately comes down to a different version of like a question of boundaries almost. And setting boundaries for yourself about how you use your time, setting boundaries for yourself for like a ratio. Like I want to, practice this instrument for a half hour a day at the very least, etc. And it comes down to defining that, making an agreement with yourself, and then like trying to stick to it, but not flogging yourself if you don't, because you're always gonna slip. You're always gonna fuck up on your diet. You're always gonna, X, Y, or Z. So I think it's just a matter of attempting and then trying again and again and trying to get closer, but always trying to set and define those boundaries and be conscious about it.
Yes. Yeah. Just keeping in mind that there's no governing body for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you do, hey, I meant to relax this evening and doing that was causing me more anxiety than just getting ahead on schoolwork. So I got ahead on schoolwork. You haven't really failed anybody in a cosmic sense. It's okay.
Yeah.
This will also get better after college too.
Yes.
Most likely, depending on what field you go into, but like college sucks for this shit. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of very fluidly defined work that changes every couple of weeks too. The beginning of a quarter has different work than the end of a quarter, and that is
stacked deadlines.
Yeah,
staggered and stacked deadlines.
Yeah. I forget what I was going to say about this. It was probably going to be something like vaguely inspirational, so I'll move on.
Keep on wear sunscreen.
Yes, is what Cole says. Is what I was going to say. Everybody is free.
To feel good.
Yeah. Damn it. I knew it was good, but I completely lost it. Oh, well.
Oh, well. You'll never get that wisdom. If you want it, you have to tap Cole's house when he wakes up at 3 a.m. and says it out loud.
Yeah. So 3 a.m. Here we go. Yes. In the past, I've referred to this as following your energy. Okay. Which is, you are going to cover less ground on something if you are forcing yourself to do something you do not have the right mindset or energy to do right now. And you would be better off doing something else that gives you greater returns on your input because you're in the mood for it now, and then doing the other thing later. This sometimes results in me doing work at 2 a.m., but that's when I'm going to get the most work done and feel best about it. As opposed to being miserable. Yeah, I could either do a half hour of it there, or struggle with it and kick myself for 4 hours trying to get myself to do it during the morning.
not forcing it not only makes it easier, the result will be better.
Yeah.
So the work you do at that time where you are in the mood to do work will end up as better work.
Yes.
Than the work when you force it.
Same, and that is not just for work. That is also for leisure, for entertainment, for hanging out with people,
Yes. Yep. When I don't, if I don't feel like socializing, like sometimes there is virtue in forcing myself to do it.
Yes.
And I'll have fun. But when I am like, I'm feeling lonesome, I miss my friends, I want to go hang out, I have a better time.
Yes.
Almost every time.
Everybody has a better time.
No. Yeah. Moving on to media questions. Maya asks, memes. Can you weigh in on how the proliferation of memes as a secondary language has affected our critical lenses and the ability to engage in conversations?
I sometimes worry that by speaking mostly in Simpsons references, maybe that's a little bit exclusionary. But I also think that draws, people in closer, and the shared vocabulary ends up making communication more efficient for the people who are going to want to stick around, and it's just a matter of deciding what your, who your audience is. But I still do it. I still, speak sometimes in memes. So is it an effect? Yeah. Is it always good or always bad? Probably not, but I can't say in what measure either way.
At its best, it's shorthand.
Yes.
At its best, it's efficient. And inclusionary. At its worst, it's exclusionary and obfuscating.
Yeah.
And it is really in the eye of the beholder, what it is. Some people will know exactly what you mean when you say like, no, it doesn't. Like when you say that, I know exactly what you mean as it applies to a broad swath of topics and media.
Yeah.
Some people will not. And I can understand that being a bummer. But at a certain point, you can talk about this and you just get to the point where you're just talking about wavelength. You're just talking about like personality. Like this can get broken down to a basic building block of like, whether you get what somebody is about or not.
Yeah.
And this is part of it. So the answer to this is kinda.
Yeah.
There are again, I keep saying this, there are smarter people than us who have probably written, long effective treatises on this. But for me and for the shows, this goes back to, I think that Duckfeed works at its best when we follow our instincts.
Yeah.
And our instincts, and again, you can break that down to just being like our wavelength, like who we are, what kind of people we naturally are, when we follow that.
Yeah.
There are elements of craft to what we do, but a lot of it is just what feels right.
Yeah. And that goes down to just, this is how I speak to actual people. This is how I, talk to Chris, to my brother, right? We no longer do a show, but we still talk to each other on the phone every day. And our conversations, we still have.
You talk every day?
Yeah.
Wow.
I talk with my mom every day too. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
I talk to your mom every day too.
She's fascinating.
Yeah, she's great. Hey, Kathy. How you doing? I just don't like. Didn't know whether I just was projecting. I assumed that this job also made you hate the phone because I hate the phone.
Oh, I hate the phone, but I've been talking on the phone with my family for longer than I've been doing this job.
Yeah, it's grandfathered in.
It is. Yeah. No, so there's a matter of like being genuine there. I also think that there's a certain kind of this too that kind of gets around being like a moon language for space people. From the outside, where it is done as comparison, like sometimes say, no, it doesn't. And we kind of know exactly what it means. Oh, it smells in there. No, it doesn't. But sometimes, especially the first couple times we do that, we say it is like X, Y, or Z. Drawing and using that gag from something, or using that meme that we saw, or using that construction, the sentence construction on Twitter, right? Like, oh, to me, or well, nevertheless, right? Like it is using that construction, as a simile almost to filter something through and express an idea that one thing is like another. And I think that can get around some of the problems with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm doing one more here.
Okay.
Let's see. We got Kay. Kay says, in regards to some of your previous conversations about letting certain stories end or die, do you feel the same should be said about bands? I'm bringing this up as a fan of Pavement and their semi-cringe sort of social media resurgence now that they have announced live shows again. So I guess in short, I'm asking, should bands not reunite to maintain the sanctity of their work? Or are we going to see all of our aloof idols become lame? The latter, almost assuredly, 100%. Yeah.
It's definitely going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Something like Pavement, like I like Pavement a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course I do. Look at me. And I've never seen them live. Right. I've seen Stephen Malcolmus, but I've never seen Pavement. I would like to. I'm probably not going to see their reunion show, but like, let's say COVID wasn't going on and I got a chance to see Pavement. It'd be pretty neat.
I'd be tempted. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be tempted. Like it's I'm sure they still know how to play the instruments. I still like those songs.
Yeah.
It'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like REM reunites. Like,
okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll go.
Cool.
I'll go see it. Like maybe it'll suck. I went and saw the Pixies reunion and it sucked.
Yeah.
The Pixies are actually my big example of like everything they've done since they're united has been fucking gross and bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they suck now. But it kind of comes down to like, it's something I believe less in legacy than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt me and it doesn't take away the good stuff.
Yeah.
To have that happen. Like, it happened, but I would rather have it exist than not. The same reason why I'm glad Simpsons is still going.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bug me. Like I want some things to die. Like we talked about, Let It Die with some stuff. And that's because we wanted new things. In video games, there is a little bit more of there's not really scarcity in video games, but there's slightly more than there is with bands or TV shows, where I feel like with TV shows and bands, like there's infinite. There's literally infinite. Mm-hmm. With games, I want, there is like a money question where, because of the production, people are doing really bankable.
Yeah.
Shit. I'm kind of hovering around something. I'm trying to find the exact word for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so it's almost like an ROI. There's like a sunk cost kind of thing. We're not going to embark on this because we know it's going to be nowadays a 3 to 5 year journey and tens of millions of dollars. So we're going to want to get, nobody will let us make this if it is not going to make, if
it doesn't say Silent Hill on it.
Yeah. But, so, and that is going to, change the ROI multiplier on this. So, and, we're not going to be putting out a whole bunch of Silent Hill games at once. So this is going to be like our one shot at this for a while. So yeah, this one coming out and being bad and coming back, there is a scarcity at that because it may be the only shot you get for a very long time.
Yes. Whereas a band, like the music doesn't feel that same way. Every time, at the end of the year when all the new band roundups come up, I've never heard of like 95% of them. Bands feel like it is in a constant churn. Mm-hmm. So when an old guard kind of thing like Pavement decides to do another spin or put out a new album or do a reunion tour, it takes up less air in the room.
Yeah.
It feels like a difference in mediums.
Yeah, there's more room on the schedule for bands. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
like it's a bigger medium, and games is already big enough to where like as much as I do think Silent Hill should just die and that'd be fine, I don't. And I'm just using that as an example, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I feel subtweeted. It's fine.
Whatever you think should die in there,
right?
But the as much as I do think that. It's not like there's real, scarcity is not really a thing. There's a little bit of that ROI bit, but a sliding scale.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it comes to, your own personal relationship, like, damn, are we going to live to see them get lame? I think that is just something where you have control over your attitude about that. Every band that I ever liked, started collaborating with weird people and, they started doing stuff that they just drifted away and they became, lamer in my eyes. And every legendary band is, stuck around as zombies, as long as as long as a critical mass, as long as a quorum of the original like outfit didn't die.
Even a critical mass, sometimes it's just one person.
Yeah,
a lot of times,
So
Men at Work still tours with just Colin, what's his head?
Yeah,
and he's the only original member.
Yeah, so they're going to be shambling around, and I think that it's up to you to decide if that lets you, if you're going to take that out of the rotation. I have taken fewer musical acts out of my rotation because of that than I did than I have for somebody saying something really regretful. I liked the band Brand New a lot when I was in high school, and turns out the lead guy of that is a sex monster. Not going to listen to them anymore, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally, we have a show question before we do the lightning round.
Yeah.
Andrew asked, I was wondering if you talk a little bit about what goes into an episode behind the scenes in general terms. What's the overall process and timeline of playing, note taking, recording, and editing for an average episode? Mm-hmm. Assume this is about WAF, but because it applies to more than that.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, but we can certainly kind of revamp it. I'll go first because I have less systems.
Yeah.
Not saying that is a weird flex. It's just
the way it broke
complicated.
Down.
Yeah. I just kind of feel it out. I know I have a whiteboard. I have a picture of Dean Venture panicking on it, and I have a list of all the games they should be playing. I drew what I consider to be a pretty good Dean, actually.
Yeah.
Freaking out and just what I need to be doing. So if I am looking for something to do, I look up at that list. I do one of those things. And just make sure I'm staying on top of it and just kind of feel it out.
Yeah.
For me.
I've got, I have a to-do list thing. It's actually, I started using a new one here recently called Tick, which does like a hybrid, like project management, but also, you can sort tasks like on a calendar, which is what I've been looking for fucking ever, so I can move due dates around and stuff like that without, using a date picker. Like it just kind of makes sense. So that's pretty cool. I take a look at everything that is that is coming up, and I generally break it down into chapters if I know that it has chapters or levels or whatever. And I know that I will probably have energy to do about 2 hours of assignment play per day at the most. So I try not to schedule more than that as I break it apart. And so I know roughly how many days I'm going to want to dedicate to playing this. So that's the play and also taking notes as it goes. Before that, generally you and I, Gary, before a dispatch episode, we will talk about what we want to do on the month that is coming up and do long-term planning with patron picks and our own vanity picks and things, get the schedule settled for that, forecasting out there. After I take my, notes from playing, I, type them out just on my iPad right there while I'm playing. Go and do research and do the generalities, get the outline put together, tidy it up and all of that. And then we sit down, we record over Discord. I record everything in Logic on my side, take, drop markers whenever there are edit points, either for myself to edit or to create a big list for you, Gary, when I send it over to you, when we split, and, then it is edited and uploaded. Yeah. It sounds like an awful lot when you lay it out, but we've been doing it for so long that it just basically happens,
Yeah. It wouldn't work if it wasn't instinctual.
Yes.
And it's instinctual now.
Yes.
In terms of time to edit, it really depends. Generally, though, it's gotten really quick. We've streamlined that process a lot. If there's an edit point, we drop a marker so we don't listen to the whole episode.
Right.
To edit it anymore. That's why there are ums and swallows and stuff in there like I just did, but we prefer that. Personally, not everyone does. Go with God. And yeah, that's it. You take notes on an iPad now?
Yes. Yeah. I've got it's like a smart Magic Keyboard thing. I got a stand for my recliner, to put the iPad right there. So I just, just literally just type as I play if I'm sitting in the room, playing on my big TV. If I'm doing portable, I will take screenshots and make the notes based off of those because, it's rough to do that in bed, or just if you're just kind of hanging around, or if I'm using my iPad to play a game like I'm doing right now for Professor Layton, can't very well take the notes on that as it goes. Yeah, I do that there. I used to handwrite it out. I really wish that I did still, because I remember things better when I handwrite. I was one of those maniacs in the mid 2000s who was never on my laptop in class. I always had just a notebook, because there's just something about the physicality and remembering where certain things were on the page that makes it easier for me. But it got way too time consuming to transcribe them, so I made myself into a typist.
Yeah. Yeah. And making it, if we didn't do these time saving things, we wouldn't be able to do as much stuff as we do.
Nope.
Like, just kind of period.
Yeah.
So that is the answer about that.
Yeah.
Let's lightning round.
Let's lightning round it up. Benjamin writes, what are your favorite regional accents to hear and to mimic?
New York, New Zealand.
New York and New Zealand are both very good. I don't do very good on either, but like New York, just the semi Long Island / Bronx kind of thing that
everyone's got that.
Yeah,
it's like the default accent for everyone, and I love
it. Like to listen to, I really like a Louisiana. Like a down bayou. I
like a Afrikaner accent a lot.
Yes, yeah. Similar
really
Canadian.
Yeah. Popo for Show asks, have you guys thought about doing ROM hacks for the show? Either fan translations like Mother 3 or a full-blown pseudo-sequel like Mario 64 Star Road. There's one of these that we might do.
Which one?
Coming up that we're kind of talking about. The one we were talking about in the green room today.
Yeah, okay, there. Yeah.
So we're not opposed to it. I think that the ones that like a fan translation is probably closer to what we'd want to do than a fan sequel.
Yes.
I don't have a good explanation for that though. The same little tiny, corner of my soul that's like, fan fiction is probably the same part. I understand it's fake, that legitimacy is kind of a fake idea, but
yeah,
that's the gut instinct I have around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am pretty much in the same boat there. Like, I don't know, there's probably a version of the show that we do. I see us doing Sweet Home at some point. That's a cool game, Yeah. Yeah, and that's only available in fan translation. So, yeah.
I would love to do Retro Game Challenge too.
Yeah.
That's got a translation. Yeah. Pokemon card game too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all things that we'd like to do, and it's different than doing, like, every time I look up Deus Ex stuff, people keep talking about the Nameless mod as if it's really good. I tried to play it, and it's all forum in jokes. I hate it.
Ugh,
like, what are these people talking about?
Yeah,
this is really good. This is really obnoxious.
Don't care for that. Yeah, so I wouldn't say like never for full blown pseudo sequels, right? Because who knows, there may be something genius that we're not accounting for, but I think that fan translations are far more likely.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not something that is a fully defensible idea.
Yes.
It's just, if we wanted to fully defend it, one thing we would say is we play pretty obscure games on the show sometimes, but the show works worse when people have never heard of what we're doing. We got some things on the schedule now that are pretty obscure.
Yeah.
That are coming up. If we just did things that were that obscure, like, there's a certain productness to the show.
Yeah.
That exists that we can't escape. Like, we are trying to make an entertaining product. If we're doing something that very, very, very few people have heard of, which is more likely with a fan work.
Yeah.
That gets kind of runs into some difficulty there.
Yeah. I'll say this, oftentimes we are crass. Sometimes we look at and choose games based on whether or not we think they're going to put butts in seats. Not always. We're not looking to do all kinds of bangers. We always want to do a variety of things, but that is a factor that we consider. And a ROM hack that is not something like, Mother 3 or whatever is not gonna draw people in. We would have to, it would be us selling that. To people to say that, yes, this is worth our attention, this is worth your attention, and that's why we're doing this, which could work, but it wouldn't be something that we would do, more than a couple of times a year. Right.
Yeah. The reason why it's hasn't shown up more, or we're reticent.
Yeah. Let's see. Christopher says, what is the tipping point for upgrading a console or PC? I love FromSoft, but I'm not buying a PS5 for just Elden Ring, though I did buy a new GPU for The Witcher 3, so maybe I'm a hypocrite. Maybe, but hypocrisy doesn't matter, so you do you.
Yeah. Yeah. I no longer really have these tipping points because of how consoles work.
Yeah.
Like consoles will play everything. What if you get the latest one in a general sense? So I just get, a new console generation. So I buy one every few years.
Yeah.
And then my computer, it's a little bit trickier. Like, I don't know. The last time I bought a new computer specifically for a thing was buying a computer that could run Deus Ex 2 in like the early 2000s. Since then, I've just upgraded when I had some money and I felt like bugging Nick to build me something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of a pretty basic answer here. Just if there's something I want to play that I absolutely am not going to be able to, doubly so if there are lots of those. If we're taking stuff for the show out of the consideration, like we need a PlayStation 4 for Bloodborne, right? Something like that. To taking that out of the consideration, I think that generally, like if I was not riding the bleeding edge or trying to stay as current as possible, but if I was being a little bit more reserved about it, I would wait for a hardware revision. Either a slimmer version. The jump from the DS to the DS Lite was a huge deal. Something like that. Kind of wait back and feel it out, and let other people kind of deal with any hardware problems that might crop up. That's usually what it is. And then for PC stuff, it's just probably like every 5 years or so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Biff asks, Death Row, you can choose the crime. Thank you. What would your last meal be? I'm going to add, what's your crime? Cole, what crime would you do to get on death row?
Oh man, I don't know. I kind of am reticent to say this because it might sound like incitement, or it might be incriminating.
Yeah. So some form of regicide or adjacent.
Yeah. or close enough,
Yeah.
If I'm gonna go on death row, if I'm gonna do the time, I'm gonna do the crime, baby.
Yeah, I want to make it matter.
Yeah, yeah, without being specific in Minecraft, etc. Yeah.
Yes.
This is tough. Probably something real trashy. I don't know, like a diner burger and some onion rings or something like that. Prison food is fucking awful, and why would I want to kind of put on airs about it and pretend that I want to have lobster and truffles and blah blah blah? No, I want to have something that I'm gonna enjoy if I'm gonna send it out, if I'm gonna be doing it out in style.
Yeah, it might be something like fried chicken and biscuits and gravy, like a breakfast.
Yeah,
like a indulgent country breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel bad after that, but who gives a shit?
I don't have anywhere to be.
Yeah, hurry up! My stomach hurts.
I would just eat all the messiest foods possible, because these assholes are the ones who are going to have to clean it up.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Gallagher show.
We try to keep
here.
Oh God, I'd be like, stand by me. Yeah. We try and keep the family of the victim out of the splash zone.
We try, but no promises.
It's first come, first serve. Sometimes the governor gets here with his retinue.
Yeah. It would be cool too, because if you ate one of those meals and you felt like going to sleep anyway, maybe you could sleep through it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, I just had Pine State biscuits, I'm gonna go to sleep. And then you miss the whole thing.
Yeah.
Biff also asked, what PC specs do you guys run? PC, CPU, GPU, RAM, etc. Don't worry if you don't know, Gary. Thank you. I don't know.
Oh man, I don't really know either. I know that I have like 16 gig RAM in my Windows machine. It is some kind of GeForce thing. I built this PC like in early 2019, I think, or 2020. It must have been 2019, because it wasn't COVID times Yeah.
Yep.
So, whatever like i7 was around then, it just Intel, GeForce, etc. My Mac machine is a summer 2017 iMac that I just put a shitload of RAM into.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I got. Sorry, I can't be more specific. It's just I don't have the numbers.
Gear stuff makes me want to die so bad. I hate those numbers.
Yeah,
just work. Fix it.
When I just hold up the broken box, make work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I said like every 5 years, also every 5 years is when I feel like keeping up with it and doing the research and stuff. Joseph says, "Hi guys, I'm a musician and I like to make chill lo-fi music and was wondering if I could make a little lo-fi remix of the WAF theme. If so, is there a way that I could connect one of you to get the chord progressions and key of the song?"
Sure. Send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv.
Yep.
I'll send you that. It's in C.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically things I write are in C. Yeah. And if you do this and send it to us and don't mind us using it, we'd love to use it. Mm-hmm. I am historically pretty shitty at people send me these and it makes my day and it makes me so happy. And then I do other stuff in my life and I forget and I feel really guilty about it.
Yeah.
So send this to me an email if you do that. If you've done this in the past and we've never featured your remix of the WAF theme or the Abject Suffering theme, send me a reminder. Yeah. And we'll do so. Send it to my email though, because Twitter, it gets erased from Twitter and my memory.
Yeah.
And I feel tons of guilt around that because I'm really flattered when people do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things that happens.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's good.
This would be rad. If it is chill and lo-fi, if you just want to make it for fun, follow your heart. If you want us to feature on a show, I would say probably the longest we could get away with that is like 1:15.
Yeah.
We can't do like a 3-minute version of it at the beginning of the episode. We can do it at the end though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hook us up. I love it when people do this kind of thing.
It's always amazing.
Yeah. Anyone listening has free reign to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't have the rights to the song. Don't twist this and use it in court. But I would love to hear your interpretations of this stuff.
Yeah. Same thing on the show. So, the show themes that I did for the level or for Bonfireside Chat. If you want to do anything with those. Yeah.
Go nuts.
Go nuts.
Yeah. Tom says, what is your favorite mythological creature?
Gary, I'm feeling Gorgons lately.
Gorgons are cool, man.
Yeah.
Gorgons are really cool.
Yeah.
A Gorgon is good.
I'm feeling Gorgons. I don't know. There's just something about them. Maybe it's maybe it just kind of was like surfaced because I watched the Spanakopita episode of Venture Brothers last night. There's a Gorgon featured in that. But yeah, I like the idea because they are bog hag adjacent. They are ugly little gremlins that'll turn you to stone. They make a little basilisk garden without being dumb snakes.
And and a basilisk garden is already really cool.
Yep.
In terms of ideas you can never use in a tabletop game because everyone will instantly know. Like, it's an unusually realistic statue, and then people will just like get out of here.
Everybody's immediately on guard. God damn it.
Yeah. But it's such a cool idea. I was going to say hag. I was going to keep going. Bog hag.
Yeah.
Just to give me a bog witch. I don't know if that counts, but so I've been really feeling bog witches still.
I mean, just kind of perpetually. If I'm going to go local, if I'm going to go North American, I really am. I like
that guy from high school that you don't like. That's the urban legend from your town. That
guy. His name was Dan, and he had a cleft palate. Okay.
No, I was thinking of Green Man, the cryptid that you made fun of that one time.
The old man over in Philadelphia? No.
Yeah. You called a cryptid.
I'm never going to live that down. No, I'm talking both here in North America, but also locally. Didn't live in this neighborhood because it was real bougie and expensive, but down in Cincinnati, there is the Loveland Frog. Gary, do a search for the Loveland Frog.
Will do.
Yeah. Spotted several
Loveland
times.
Frogman?
Yeah, it is a frogman. You see that guy?
He's got a jaunt.
Yep. Yeah, no. About 3 or 4 feet tall, humanoid frog person. He's spotted usually in ditches and culverts. He usually gets up and runs away. And the most bizarre thing is that occasionally people will see him and it is like he is waving some kind of wand that is emitting sparks. Yeah.
In May 2014, the Loveland Frog Legend was made into a musical titled Hot Diggity Dog. It's the Loveland Frog.
That sounds like a Nathan for you.
Hot Diggity Dog. That's a really good answer. I was going to just say, like, depending on how we're stretching it, just default back to Beholder, because that's my favorite monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it's just the Loveland Frog is really good.
Mm-hmm.
There's an Oregon local one of those too. I saw Andy Daly on Commie Bang Bang, as his character who hunts monsters, Dalton Wilcox, the cowboy monster hunter, and he talked about the going state to state hunting these monsters. But the Oregon one is just a sea monster, and I find the sea monster class of mythological creature really boring.
Yeah, you're not going to run into that. Like, it's not going to run out in front of your car on a foggy night.
Like, we kind of have Sasquatch up here.
Kind of, yeah, that's
Bigfoot shows up all the time. There's Bigfoot hunters and stuff in Oregon, but not that jazzed by Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Harry or his Hendersons, fuck them.
Yeah.
I don't. Harry and the Hendersons you wrote in on, like, no, thank you.
Oh my God, yeah. No, so just do one from classics, Gorgons, and do ones from local North American folklore, Loveland Frog.
Yeah, I'm gonna make up one for around here.
Yeah,
that's better.
Griddler.
Yeah, the Griddler, the Loveland Griddler.
Sleepy Smiles writes, you awake one morning to find a fog gate has appeared over your front door. What boss will you face on the other side?
Pocket.
Greta and Dottie, harbingers of the late breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Joshua Kane says, dumb but easy. You're transformed into a monster from the D&D Monster Manual. Shout out to Monster in My Podcast. For the rest of your life. And the challenge part of the question is, it can't be a beholder, dragon, unique entity, like the Tarrasque or the like, or an advanced undead, like a lich, vampire, etc. Which one would you pick, and how would you adapt to your new life? It's a good question.
Yeah.
Hippogriff, maybe? I already got the body type, and I like pith helmets.
True, true. I'm
hippogriff. What are the griff?
Oh,
Gif.
Yeah,
griff. The explorer hippo, not the hippogriff. The hippogriffin. I don't want to be a mount.
I was gonna say, geez, she's going for it.
He's going to horse in the regular animal section. I anamorph into a horse.
Yeah.
The explorer hippos.
Yeah.
With the gun.
Doppelganger.
Ooh.
Yeah. It'd be fun to replace somebody and see how long I could get away with the act.
Cool to cuckoo somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If I have to be a monster, that seems like the most intellectually engaging thing to do. If I can't be a lich or a vampire, Yeah.
It's also worth noting that, like, human is in the Monsters Manual.
True.
We could really cheat if we wanted to, but and they are the real monsters after all.
Gary, I don't want to be this kind of animal anymore. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. You mean elf? That'd be pretty good because you like, at least for me, because I like living for a long time.
Oh yeah. So, I was about to say something really depressing that would have made everybody worried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say I've already been alive too long, Gary. Which I don't feel, but it would have been a very funny thing. It would have been a funny and shocking thing to say, but I don't actually feel that way. Don't worry, everybody.
In sentiment,
yes,
with the current zeitgeist of just wanting to die or joking about wanting to die being nonstop.
Yep, and just a reflex at this point.
Yeah. Now, what is our final lightning round question, Cole?
The final one here is the Baba Duck, who says, what is a game that you want to see a demake of?
It's a fun idea.
That is a very fun idea. I mean, this is a bit of a cop-out, but I'm pretty excited for that Bloodborne remake that's coming out later this month. The PS1. Yeah, it's going to be short. It's going to be a modest product, but I'm very curious about it.
It'd be a cool thing that I wish I knew about when we were planning out stuff to do before Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for this because a lot of times, like I watch a lot of YouTubes, like if YouTube does demakes, I subscribe to it. Like I like looking at those. They never look like a game I'd want to play though.
That's the thing.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not because I don't like old games, but just because it's hard for me to imagine, you know, a game. I guess what I want is like a demake of New Vegas, but in like the Fallout 2 engine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which like a lot of people wouldn't want because they don't like that engine, but I would like that more.
Yeah. Most people would want Fallout 2 quests and areas in the Fallout New Vegas engine. You want to,
which I would also want.
Yeah.
Like I, you know, just you know, but that's probably my best.
The question here is demakes. Like my interest in demakes really is like it is almost never mechanical because it always is mapping it onto honestly an easier to execute kind of game kind of idea, right? Just a genre, etc. My interest is almost always aesthetic. How do they adapt this particular iconic thing? How do they, you know, adapt these environments and stuff like that? So I can get as much out of screenshots generally, or have gotten more out of screenshots and curiosity and, you know, an appreciation of the work, the hard work that went into it by, you know, just kind of like looking at it and saying neat and then moving on with my life. So that's also why it's hard, because my answer on this is like, oh yeah, which one would I want to like flip through an article about and then forget exists would be how that would realistically go.
Well, there's weird little bits of this where a lot of times because of indie stuff, this stuff has kind of happened.
Yeah.
You know, like there's not like a demake of like Dark Souls or Bloodborne is kind of like a Metroidvania side-scrolling Souls-like.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, right? Like Breath of the Wild is kind of demade in Zelda 1. You know, it's hard to think of because so many things are legacy and exist either in indie spaces or in their past as kind of a demake.
Yeah.
You know, you almost have to think about something that is a brand new property.
Yeah.
You know, and as we all learned from Free Guy, where's the profit in that, yo? Wiggity voice.
Wiggity, what you talking about, Willis?
Yeah. Like, also a show you get access to if you patronize us.
Oh my God.
We're going to switch to the topic now. And we did the thing where we're not taking anybody's topic that they gave us.
I'm so sorry.
We will do a roundup at some point soon.
Yes.
But something was in the news recently, and every once in a while something is part of the discourse, and we want to weigh in. Dying Light 2 is coming out, and it drew a lot of attention for having its big selling point in advertisement being like this takes 500 to 550 hours to complete.
Yeah. Can you run down like what some of the like what were the sides on this? Because I know that I have my opinion about like how that was a really, really bad marketing move. That was a dumb thing for them to do that didn't help them or anybody like either sell this game or justify buying it or, you know, be more interested in buying it. I have my own opinion, but like what were the battle lines?
No battle lines, at least in terms of my sphere. Everyone was just like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so there weren't really battle lines, but it brought up the topic of game length.
Yeah. And this is something we're always talking about. Always.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it felt like a good idea to crystallize it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about, at what point in your gaming life did something like that Dying Light 2 advertisement turn from a selling point to an actually like incredibly dark threat? You know, like basically may as well be written with magazine cutouts. You know,
at what point did it go from something that you said yay to something you said you can't make me to?
Yeah. Like, oh shit, hide.
So this is difficult. This is hard to kind of disambiguate, disentangle, because of the job kind of deal. I look at, this game will take 555 hours to beat, and I say, oh, well, we'll never do that for a show. So later, right? Yeah. So I have to scrub that from my reckon. But I mean, it definitely had to be sometime like late. I mean, like college, right? That had to be the case. Like I remember struggling with Oblivion when that came out. Like there was an awful lot of hype around this as a place where you can just live, and that was a time when I was distracted by a bunch of other stuff. It was also a time when that was less attractive to me than doing something similar, like in an MMO where I could also have a chat room with people to, like doing that kind of thing, So doing it single player had a little bit less of an appeal. And also like open world games were selling themselves that way, and see the aforementioned San Andreas problem, right? Where it's just like, this is just, there's a lot of this, but, be wary of any restaurant that advertises itself on its portions, right?
Yeah, the food is awful, but the portions are huge.
Yeah.
The open world promise, right? It has to do with, so I think it has to do with when, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this that doesn't sound backhand insulting to anyone. But I think that it does correlate really strongly with how much other stuff you have going on in your life.
Yeah, whether or not these people have anything else to live for, so they can just pick up this slop that everybody's putting in front of them.
Yeah. Whether they just eat shit, they line up at the shit line and just say, "My mouth, please." But in terms, instead of thinking about it on an axis of person, right? Yeah. So I'm not comparing Gary Butterfield, the Chad, who has a lot of other things going on in his life, to reverse straw man who only has video games, who just wants a 500-hour game.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm referring Gary Butterfield, the Chad adult, who actually has other responsibilities that are kind of a bummer, to Gary, the literal virgin kid who just had infinite free time and was capable of boredom.
Yeah.
It's an axis and life section. And that's the common observation around this, but it's interesting how it's not universal. Like I always expect it to be universal.
No.
I expect, people, once they get older and have a job and have families, to also move on this axis that I have. And it's not true.
No.
Dying Light 2 overplayed their hand, but you do see people who are like, fuck yeah, this game is really long. I love that.
Yeah.
And kind of figuring out what that's about, I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I also think that we ultimately, what this comes down to a lot of the time is that length itself is and easy to convey. Like it's a number, right? It's literally just like an integer that you can assign as a value, especially as expressed by, hour to dollar, but it's a really inelegant instrument, let's say.
Yes.
Because there are other things that may be more useful. How well paced is this? Does this game wasting density. Is it wasting your time? Is this something that you can get into and get out of quickly? Does this fit in with is this something you can make appreciable progress in and enjoy if you just play it for an hour? Or is this something
How
where
long is a session?
Yeah, the ramp up makes it so you really got to be going for 90 minutes plus in order to make it actually worth sitting down, to do this. There are all kinds of kind of hidden factors that are behind that integer, right?
Yes. And those things all speak to length being kind of arbitrary and dumb as a measurement, right?
Yes.
Like if something is very, very long and I know nothing else about it, that does not tell me anything about the quality of it. Because it doesn't speak to pace or anything. Something that does speak to it objectively, though, that does play into this, and one of the reasons why, I think this is true of you as well. I'm a short game preferrer, and that mindset comes from variety.
Yep.
When Oblivion is advertised, like you can live in this.
Yeah.
Right now I'm playing State of Decay for the show, and I love that game. It's actually one of my favorite open world games. Like I'm Good job, Gary. Way to pick that for Wall, because that's a really cool game.
You picked it good.
Really interesting. Yeah. That is, and it's really fun and really interesting. It is also, they ended up putting like a forever mode in it as a DLC. It also has that kind of forever vibe to it. There is a fundamental difference in the mindset of somebody who is in the market for a forever game. And to me, as much as I do, like I'll play Isaac, I'll play Monster Train, there are games that I replay. I do want to have a steady influx of new stuff.
Yeah.
I feel poorer as a media consumer if I am exclusively living in oblivion.
You want to enjoy all the meats of our cultural stew.
Yes. And something like this 500-hour thing, or you can also apply this to like a Jim Stephanie Sterling, consumer product, games as service, model thing. The idea that you just have to make this one purchase and this will be video game for you. You will live here, is really repulsive, not just because it doesn't tell me anything about the quality of it, but also because by necessity, it occludes a lot of play experiences.
Yes.
No matter how cool Dying Light 2 is, it doesn't contain Monster Train or Inscription or, any of these other, it doesn't contain Grime. It doesn't contain any of these other games I want to play.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a bit of an arrogance to it too, if I'm being honest with you, like, not to make this all about the Dying Light kind of angle, but like I have never seen the developer of Slay the Spire or Isaac or any other kind of, roguelite game that is meant to have these procedurally generated, it's different every time runs, come out and tacitly say, this game effectively lasts forever, so it's the last video game you will need to buy. Yeah. And I say that as a diagonal way to get into when a game, even separate it from like Dying Light, the back of the box on a gigantic JRPG or similar game where it says, 80 plus hours of gameplay, etc. What that is actually saying is 80 plus hours that you're going to want to play to the exclusion of a bunch of other stuff. And that is, even if that is entirely me bringing that tone into it, I am put off by that. There's a bit of an arrogance around it.
It's like, huge arrogance because it's a huge statement. Right? Yeah. The idea of saying like a Persona game being like, hey, this is Persona 5. You will like this for 90 hours is such a bigger ask than almost anything else you could, like a bigger statement, an extraordinary claim.
Yes.
Right. And it hasn't really borne out. Like I'm a Persona 3 and 4 liker.
Yeah.
I haven't revisited those because of the length. I am put off by playing any more entries in the series because they are too long. Yeah. Because I know it won't hold my interest that long.
And sometimes, like, okay, there's also like the audience, people who like those games. They're looking for that. It's the Tommy Boy guarantee on the box, right? I could shit in a box and put a guarantee on it, but it would probably waste all of our time, right? Yeah.
This is a 90-hour shit.
Yeah. I'm not calling Persona. I know people like those games, etc. But like, it's also who are they communicating what to? I guess. Like when they say, like on the back of this 90 plus hours, they're not talking to me because they were probably never going to reach me. Somebody who played, 8 hours of Persona 5 and then dropped it because of other stuff. Right.
What's fascinating about that is I'll talk to so for example, Will Hughes, who I'm not using him as a whipping boy. He's just somebody who I talk to about games a lot.
Yeah.
Has said, he thinks, the Persona games justify their lengths. And his argument is you would not get as attached to the characters without that much time spent with them. And to me, you run into something that is a concept that I feel very viscerally, and I know is subjective, but I feel in relation to these things is like a terminal velocity. Where the difference between 40 and 90 hours is way less than the difference between like 10 and 40.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So like at a certain point at 40 hours, I think I probably know the characters about as well as I can.
Just about. Yeah.
Take it out of a genre I don't like and put it into a game I do like to, make it feel more fair. Right. Take the end of Blood and Wine.
Yeah.
Like the ending of that hit really hard because I'd spent so much time with Geralt.
Yeah.
I think that a 40-hour experience, a week of work, you know, 5 full-time days is enough time to get to know Geralt and have a similar experience. Like those extra 100 hours or whatever to do the rest of Witcher 3, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, additive, but not as additive as that first chunk.
Yeah. Just there's diminishing returns, right?
Yes. You know, as you approach the longest a game could be, you're getting less and less out of it. You are, it feels to me like you are scraping up crumbs as opposed to taking healthy bites.
Yeah.
You know,
something else about this too, when a game breaches into, I'm talking about a finite product that happens to take a very long time to play, you know, gets into, let's say 40 plus hours. Okay. How many hours can I reasonably do this? You know, if I'm, you know, like, I know that there are people who will have a 40-hour game beat the weekend that it comes out. But like, if you are doing other stuff and if you are, you know, living your life and probably playing like 3 hours at a time, you know, or 3 hours per day, you know, that makes sense. You get home from work, you have dinner and you have a couple hours, and then you put the kids to bed and you have a couple more hours. 3 hours a day feels pretty good. Well, okay, 3 hours a day over so-and-so. You're playing the same thing and experiencing that entire story over the course of like weeks and weeks. There's not an awful lot that, like, you know, you're immersed in for that long.
Yeah.
You know,
it does. It plays into the difference in mediums that we talked about a lot before, where one of the reasons why I find long games a lot of the times odious is because stories are not built to be stretched that long.
Right.
And games are the only medium that does it. You know, Fallout 4 with its DLCs is longer than any novel ever written.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of our count to get through it, in terms of the length of the story.
Yeah.
And the way that games cheat to get around that is by having it be a lot of little stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but a lot of games don't end up doing that. And it also, even if it is a lot of little stories, it is still stretching that pacing.
Yeah.
You know, beating up on Persona, we don't have to beat up on Persona and Dragon Quest, like true of Fallout 4, true of Witcher 3, true of all these things I really love.
Yeah.
You know, it is also still a narrative that is stretched beyond the breaking point.
Yes.
Of what it needs to be, or really what it can be, at least for me, and trying to figure out what that difference is, like what the gene people have.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes up when I talk to Will about this stuff is he's like, I don't have any feeling of ever having my time wasted. My time is valueless. And Will's got a weird nihilist like streak in him where he'll say things like this. And I'm like, that can't really be true, but I understand it's true a little bit. Mm-hmm. He'll be like, oh, you know, my time has no value. There's no such thing as wasting time.
No.
And I'm like, how do you live like that? Like, what is the mindset that like can just not care about running in place?
Yeah.
You know, I don't get it. And I want to get it. It's not, I'm not trying to sound judgy. I want to understand it.
Yeah. I just, you know, like even aside from values, you know, like, okay, just to like, do you value your time? I look at that and I think about all the games that would like get you into and like pot committed to for a very long time. And it is really hard for me to understand how somebody doesn't get itchy feet and move on to something else and leave it unfinished. But I say that as somebody who moves on and leaves stuff unfinished for all kinds of reasons.
Well, and the truth, again, I'm not trying to beat up on my very, very good dear friend Will. Like, he also moves on from stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And
like, this is different than going down with the ship.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but just and he also doesn't just seek out super long games either.
No,
right? He's just the person who I've talked about this a lot with in real life. Like, I should not be using him as an example. Actually, I apologize. It's just because, you know, I have talked to him about this stuff.
He is the other person in our life who does game criticism stuff professionally. Yeah.
I talked to two people about video games. It's like you and him, basically.
Yeah.
You know. But it is a weird, and so that's why, you know, even for him who accepts a Persona game that is nightmare long, he is not looking at Dying Light and saying like, hell yeah, 500 hours.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that is something for someone.
Well, also,
like there are folk on the Slack, like it comes up on the Slack and people will be like, hell yeah. Like, if I get that much hour per my dollar, like I'm extremely happy.
But also it's not fucking true. Like they came out and they explained it, and it's like, if you did every single thing, like if you went around and talked to every person or et cetera down the line, right? Like you would get that. It's kind of like saying this jar of peanut butter contains exactly 16 ounces. No, there's going to be a bunch of that you don't get out because it's going to be stuck to the bottom. Right.
Yeah.
There's toothpaste in this that you're not going to get. And when they came out and said that, like, most people, if they're playing this and following their noses, this is probably going to be a 20-hour game. That makes sense. So it makes the 550, like, they didn't need to step on that rake, and it's a useless number that started a bunch of conversations that are not going to bear out because nobody's going to play it that way.
And that's why they did. They wanted to draw attention,
I suppose. Yeah.
You know, to their bragging thing. It's like, it reminds me of like Pam cooking spray. Always has a servings, and it's always like nightmare specific. It's like 538 servings in the spray can. I'm like, holy shit. Or like when I used to order office furniture when I was an office assistant, and chairs were rated by how many rubs. There's a stat for chairs that are rubs, and it's how many rubs they can.
It's the machine that pushes down on the chair in IKEA. They'll show you in the office chair section. Yeah.
The mechanical ass that just does mecha sits.
Yeah. One must imagine the mechanical ass happy.
Consider the mechanical ass. Yeah. So it's a weird thing, and it ties into so not only do, you know, these kind of like grandiose things, but I feel it too, like games that I really like. I talked about this in a recent episode. We were talking about the Sinking City.
Yeah.
About 30% away from the end, the game will climax. Like I keep having games feel like they're at an ending and then Return of the Kinging.
Yep.
Me. And that is really strange too. That feels like it is in service of length and security. And I guess like this is all a really complicated way of saying like, hey, I'm a market, serve me. You know, don't do that. Like I'll buy your game if you're just like, no, it ends when it feels like it should end.
Uh-huh.
What a fucking concept.
Yeah.
You know?
It just
doesn't have to be like whoever these people you are beholden to who will be upset if the Sinking City ended when the plot first climaxed.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm saying basically it's just raising my hand and saying, I won't yell at you. I won't yell at you if this is an 8-hour thing. I'll be happy. I'll put it down. And, you know, that doesn't do anything about the many, many other people who will review bomb it, etc. And, you know, the most uncharitable read is start gamer rights advocates, you know, getting in there and doing consumer stuff, you know, but
it's a real alien mindset.
Yeah.
Who are doing that, who are getting mad about that stuff. And it's when it comes to dollar per, you know, you end up like stuff like the Order 1886 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like a $50 or $60 game that is 6 hours. Like I kind of get that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
But I can also wait until it's free on PS Plus. So,
but also there's a huge gulf in between that.
Yes.
And this is 90 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, earlier in the conversation, you talked about doing stuff for the show. That definitely happens where I'm like looking at things. I'm like, yeah, we're never going to do Persona 5 for the show. It's 90 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would we do it? You know, this even comes up for stuff I don't play on the show, right? Like I do, like when I got ahead for work, I got really ahead in the fall and winter. So I treated myself to a couple of WRPGs just for Gary and played Pathfinder Kingmaker and Wasteland 3. And Pathfinder Kingmaker is too fucking long. It was like 90 hours or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
It needed to end. Like, and that's paced like a campaign tabletop thing. Like it justifies its pacing a little bit. Like you are constantly doing stuff. It's moving into new acts and everything like that. It's just too long to be doing the same thing. I know we made that point already. The reason why I'm bringing it up again is to separate it out from stuff for the show.
Yeah.
Like I was just playing that for fun, and it was still, I just don't want to be doing the same thing or inhabiting the same world for this long.
Mm-hmm.
Give me another world. Let me switch over to a different genre and a different aesthetic and a different character, a different music set, different control thing, new encounters. Like all of that stuff. I am not a novelty chaser, but I need at least a little bit of an influx of novelty from time to time. There's a huge gulf in between The Order 1886 and Persona 5.
Yeah.
In terms of how to handle this.
Yeah. My feet get itchy, and breaking it out. If I am, it's kind of like with a book. Like if I start a book and it's not finished within a month, like that book ain't going to get finished. It's never, just might as well just fucking throw it in the garbage. Right. Cause it's just not.
If I would have liked it, I would have kept reading it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, I just there's no version of me that looks at something and says, like, yes, with dedication and regularity and persistence, I'm going to keep coming back to this for a month. Nothing else is like that. Nothing else takes a month to consume. Even whole shows now that everything is available to watch in batches. Right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. When I did my Breaking Bad rewatch, it wasn't a month.
No. It's a huge show.
Yeah. It's like a 50-hour show.
Uh-huh.
It's still very long, but it wasn't this long.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that whole, breaking it out into how many days, how many sits this is going to be is what I call it. Like how many sits is it? That is a particular mania that comes from the kind of planning that I need to do to keep up with the show. But it's something real. It's something that I feel and it applies to other stuff.
Yeah. It's also the last thing I want to say about this is that I want this idea to be introduced into the conversation about games taking up space in the conversation in a big game versus small game way.
Okay.
I think that when people talk about indie games and discoverability, this is actually a problem as well. People talk about it in terms of just advertising dollars and getting eyes in front of something. But the idea that you're just going to play League of Legends and that's going to be your game has as much to do with people not playing smaller games as just discoverability.
Yeah.
If you have a permanent game and I'm a Destiny 2 player, that's what I do. You are not checking out Cruelty Squad or whatever.
Right.
Like it is also a problem creatively and in terms of art for the medium.
Yeah.
So yeah. Viva short games, or at the very least, like medium games.
Finite games that can feasibly be beaten within a week without marathoning.
Yes. Yeah. A week is a good amount of time to be playing a video game.
I agree.
Yeah. We're going to now read your responses to January's games.
Yeah. So starting with Super Mario Brothers 3. My God, it feels like that was forever ago.
It does feel like forever ago.
Sean says via contact, when this game came out, I cried in public to shame my mother into buying it for me. Problem is, I was 11 years old, which is objectively too old to do this. What embarrassing things did you do as a kid when you were a little too old to do it? Also, my kids say bros instead of brothers in regards to Mario/Smash games, and this bothers me. Valid?
Are you valid or are the kids valid? What are you asking?
I'm not sure. I get irritated when people say bros. I call it Smash Brothers.
Sure.
But also like
Smash Bros kind of sounds annoying a little bit.
Yeah, this is a frequent thing of there's a split on this on the level, and it has become a joke. It has become like a thing.
Who's on the wrong side of it?
Oh, Dennis and David are. Ben, I think usually sides with me, and I am unsure of Jala's opinion where she falls on it. I think that so there's occasional needling about bros versus brothers. I would say it's it is fine for it to bother you, but also you know what they mean, so live and let live.
They are your kids.
Yeah.
Not to tell you how to parent, but what if you went into chaos mode and start calling it Smash Bros or Super Mario Bros?
Oh, yeah,
Bros.
Bros. As for the first one, I don't know. Just I've gotten I got real pissy attitudes, but I felt like that was just kind of a teenage thing,
Sure.
Just if I was specifically if I was pulled away from a game, not that I wanted to play to go to a funeral or some shit. Yeah. But no crying in public. I just love the idea.
No.
I was 11. Hey, that kid, he's got razor necks on him. Like they've been teaching him how to shave. He's also crying because they wouldn't buy him a Super Game Boy.
I went out in the street and yelled Mortal Kombat when I was too old to do it. So, yeah.
Oh man.
Stuart says via contact. When I was a kid, my family would regularly make a 2-day car trip out to Canada's East Coast to visit my mom's side of the family. There was little for me to do there, but one year I found an NES and Mario 3 tucked away in a basement storage room. I didn't have any games back home, and I was enraptured. I spent every free moment in trying in vain to beat it. It took me years of returning to even get to World 8. However, since I came out, my uncle hasn't wanted me to visit. I talked to my aunt recently, and when I asked, she said the NES and TV were still where I set them up the last time I was there. That was almost 16 years ago.
That's some Miss Havisham shit.
Yeah, that's a sweet story. Sorry that your uncle's being a douche.
Yeah, that's awful. When I said the Miss Havisham shit, like the fact that it is still there, that it's just that it just been left in state is a very strange thing.
Yeah. Sorry, your uncle is being homophobe. The idea of like being somewhere and finding an NES.
Ooh.
Like that's such a cool little kid memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like that feeling of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm at my aunt's house and they got a Nintendo tucked away.
Wait a minute, and I don't have one of these?
Like my weekend is dialed.
Why do they have this? Oh. I need to make sure nobody else finds out about it because it might disappear if they look at it.
Yeah. They're just gonna want to ask me about school over and over. Like that is a really unique, cool feeling of kidness. I always think about that. Whenever I think about that, I think about the Neverending Story.
Oh yeah,
like him being tucked away in that, like the storm coming and being tucked away in that library.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just imagining the idea of like being a kid. There's no such thing as time. You've tucked yourself away somewhere with an entertaining object, and just it's absolute fucking bliss. It's like the kind of thing I can't really get anymore.
Yeah,
you know.
I wish I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would take a drug that did that. They invented it like a Philip K. Dick drug.
You would just plug into a BTL that was just that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Like BTL of me having that kind of attention span and time disappearing.
Mm-hmm. Very specific thing, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darth Ender X says via contact, hearing you guys talk about how Mario almost had a centaur form, then thinking about how Mario's power-ups in that game are mostly costumes, all I can picture is one of those 2-person horse costumes with Mario in the front and Luigi in the back, and Mario just refuses to put on the head. Also, you guys wondered what the point of the fortress gates are. In the unlikely event that you run out of lives and get a game over, you have to continue from the start of the world. All the normal levels respawn, but the gates don't, so you can use them as shortcuts past levels that you have already completed. A handful of people wrote in and included that.
Oh, neat.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I'm sure when I was young, I ran out of lives at some point, but as an adult, I did not.
Yeah.
Mario 3 is really generous with lives. That's not a gamer brag.
Right.
They basically give you 5 lives every 3 levels. You know, it's balanced so you lose a life once per level and still end up on top.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fascinating.
You sent me an image that actually was the Nintendo Power description of what the centaur costume was supposed to be. He was going to he was going to be faster, right?
Yeah. Faster and could step on things. It was basically the boot functionality.
Yeah.
Those horse costumes are real weird because the person in back has to be bent over and walking all the time.
It seems like a nightmare.
Yeah, I never really thought about the ergonomics of those horse costumes.
I've also never seen one in real life, so I have to assume that it is a thing that is just a construct of media.
Have you seen the Tim and Eric and Zach Galifianakis? I think it's their maybe it's in Just Three Boys. Have you seen Just Three Boys?
The closest I've gotten is that one episode of Bedtime Stories, or the 2 episodes of Bedtime Stories. Yeah.
I think Just Three Boys is on YouTube. You should watch Just Three Boys. It's like 10 minutes or whatever. It's just those 3 guys being goofy, but there's a really good bit with a horse costume.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you get to see them in a horse costume. It's pretty fun.
You know what? I have seen it in real life, but it was a costume for like when I was in high school, one of the plays we did one year was like a satire of like Shakespeare comedies, you know, like The Tempest and all that. And what, you know, for a gag, like one of the some of the characters had dress up like horses. So I have seen it in real life, but it was also it wasn't a very good play. It was high school. Come on. But it was also part of fiction. So I've not seen one out in the wild.
Yeah. Should get one.
Just see if we can make it happen.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I just walking around my neighborhood in that thing with somebody else.
Yeah.
Keep Portland weird. Get playing accordion or something. On rollerblades. Andrew says via contact, I didn't have a Nintendo growing up, but my cousins did, which led to me playing a lot of the classics as a kid, but beating almost none of them. Mario 3 is one of my favorites for many of the reasons you touched on in the episode. I love the variety of the world designs, and those one-off secrets and power-ups made it feel like anything was possible. Fast forward to college, when I could revisit the old classics through the magic of emulation. For some reason, a group of friends were in my room watching me play Mario 3, and I was killing it, breezing through the worlds, cruising through the airship levels that stymied me time and time again as a child. Finally, I came face to face with Bowser for the first time in my life. Well, what does Mario do? He jumps on things. So I proceeded to run across the screen to jump on Bowser. I can still hear the echoes of the uproar from my friends. Shouts of alarm, anger, possibly betrayal. At any rate, thanks to their collective primal scream, I was able to course correct and let Bowser fall to his doom. Quite a humbling moment after feeling like a Mario expert just a few minutes prior, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because it's a gaming experience I will never forget.
It's like walking into a conversation about a book that you haven't finished and tried to play it off like, oh yeah, Great Gatsby, the pool party, at the end. Woo.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had a handful of people write in with similar stories about trying to figure out figure out the Bowser fight. That was the funniest one by far, though. I just love the horror. It is just like you drop trow.
Yeah, just no. That kind of puzzle Bowser fight where you fight Bowser in a different medium than you play the rest of the game kind of started in 2, but it's a thing Mario is pretty good at.
Yeah,
I think. Like it's not a series with good boss fights in a general sense. There are some, you know, but in general, I think the boss fights are kind of lame in that series. But you know, the fact that Bowser always requires something different.
Yeah, you know,
I think it's kind of cool.
Bowser in World is definitely the height for me. You know, picking up the clown bots. Yeah.
Yeah. Clown bots. Or then Mario 64 even. Like I like those Bowser fights. Grabbing him by the tail.
Yeah. Let's see. Chip says, longtime listener, first-time contactor. Loved y'all's episode on Super Mario Bros. 3. The discussion of how warp whistle locations seem to be imbued at birth rang true, as I have no idea how I knew at an early age to crouch for a certain time to get behind the scenery. However, I did have a very unique merchandising experience with the game. My dad worked for Pepsi Cola bottling for many years, which included the time when Nintendo decided to make a Santa version of Mario for holiday cola sales. There were Pepsi cans and flyers featuring Mario in full Santa beard and hat, with little raccoon ears and a tail in their adverts, which led to my dad to dress up his Mario-shaped coworker in a Santa beard, overalls, and cap with raccoon ears and tail to come to our house while my brother and I were fast asleep, taking pictures of us groggily waking up to Santa Raccoon Mario standing by our beds, smiling and holding cans of Pepsi Cola. Once my family decides to actually get vaccinated, I'll dive into the photo albums and send along the pictures. In the meantime, that's my very specific experience with Super Mario Bros. 3 merchandising. I'm sorry, apparently your dad hasn't gotten vaccinated and that sucks because you can't spend time around him. That is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. That rules.
It's very funny. I love a Mario-shaped coworker. As somebody with a Mario-shaped coworker, like I really appreciate that. Several Mario-shaped coworkers as part of a Mario-shaped network. And then I love that he was still carrying cans of Pepsi.
Oh, yeah.
He still got a brand ambassador.
You got to stay on
it's
brand.
Morning Pepsi. I imagine it being warm. Like,
yep. It's got some scrambled eggs floating in there for protein.
Yeah. The wanting caffeine when I first woke up, like when I was in high school, as an affectation.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like many times because of my Dickensian childhood, I had to live with friends.
Yep.
And I remember living with my friend Doug for a while and wanting that caffeine, but not wanting to talk to his mom because she was upstairs and like it's scary. So I would take a can of Coke in the night and put it down in my room so I could have it in the morning and drink like a warm Coke first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I'll get
just
you
to get
out.
out of bed. It was real disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what this makes me think of. Yeah. That's very cute.
That's a good
I remember
story.
those cans. I remember the Pepsi Mario cans.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was rad, man. This was a great time for Mario just being like fat and on stuff.
Oh man, I just I was doing some rearranging and I got like little picture ledge shelves for some of my like small toys, you know, so like my little Mega Man,
those McDonald's Marios.
Yeah, no, I've got Mario, I've got a Paracupa, and I've got Luigi, and I've got just those three hanging out next to some Mega Man, next to some Sonics. I should post a picture.
Hell yes.
Yeah, no, but just
I need to go on eBay and like add those to my collection of the food transformers that I have.
Excellent. Yeah.
Like we didn't do an abject suffering about it, but it's still going to influence my purchase.
Yeah.
Stronger Strong says via contact. I have a confession. I've never played through Super Mario Brothers 3. Thanks. We absolve you. Moving on. I'm just kidding. Continues. I was born in the early 90s. We had an NES and we had the game. I just never played more than a few levels. I always went with Super Mario World or Yoshi's Island if I wanted a Mario game. When I found out you guys were doing it for the show, I figured it was a perfect chance to finally see what all the fuss was about, and I'm really glad I did. While it will never be my favorite Mario game, I still had a ton of fun with it, and even though it was a weird experience playing through and then listening to the show. Warp whistles? White blocks you can get behind? What the heck? I was apparently one of the few people born without any of that knowledge. The thing that was really compelling about Super Mario Bros. 3 to me was just how quick most of the levels were. There was something wildly compelling about playing a game where a level might only be 30 seconds long on average. It felt like anytime I had 5 minutes to kill, I could fire up the Switch and play through half a world. And while I did end up using the rewind perhaps more than I'd like to admit, especially towards the end, no challenge or level or idea overstayed its welcome, with the possible exception of some of the maze levels. As I've gotten older, I find myself enjoying shorter and tighter games more often than I enjoy the massive sprawling AAA open world games that are so prevalent in the market, and that made Mario 3 a breath of fresh air and a fantastic way to spend my Christmas break.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, and don't feel bad about using that rewind feature. That feature is so good.
Yeah,
I love it. I like it even more than save states, honestly.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it gives you both.
Yep.
Like you can do both in that. Save states I was finding really useful, just literally for their intended purpose, like not to cheese anything, just to like put the game down,
to leave off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
never feel bad about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, never. It's there for you. It's there to be used. Yeah.
No one gets to decide what you think is fun.
Yep. Don't give other people control over what you enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah. Josh says via contact, I had a slightly sad experience when I got my home copy of the game. I was in 4th grade or so, and a kid in my class found out that I had the game, and he basically invited himself over to play it. We weren't friends before that, and we never really hung out or became friends after that. It was just weird feeling used as a way for him to get his hands on the game for an afternoon. I never really lost any sleep over it, just a weird experience. As for all the talk about how we instinctually knew where the warp whistles were and how to duck behind the scenery, I chalk that up to Nintendo power. I'm pretty sure I was reading articles and secrets about the game before it was released that way.
Oh, big intellectual reads Nintendo Power for the articles.
Ooh, okay. I guess we
can believe that. Mailer about his waning libido.
Latest claptrap about Mario 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, I'm angry that you provided a perfectly reasonable explanation for why we all knew that.
I don't think that was me because I didn't get Nintendo Power until later.
Yeah.
I think the Wizard taught me one of them.
Might have been both. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember what it is, but it might have been people who read Nintendo Power who told me.
Yeah. No,
but Nintendo Powers were very rare at the time. I didn't have a subscription, and like getting a hold, I had like one dog-eared, like beaten up copy that'd be a hand-me-down, and I would just read it over and over and over. Like I was not up to date with them.
Yeah, if you didn't get it either at the newsstand or on subscription, like getting a specific edition of the magazine that would have had that would have been hard.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doug says via contact, I too recall the incredible hype and anticipation of Super Mario Bros. 3. Seeing it in the Wizard was tantalizing, but I vividly remember the first time I actually got my hands on the game. It was via an arcade cabinet at my local mini golf. The novelty of seeing an NES game in an arcade cabinet was already cool, but the game itself felt like the future. Hearing the steel and conga drums in the music was as if Nintendo had unlocked a secret heretofore unknown capability of the NES's limited sound chip. And the colorful graphics, panoply of new abilities, particularly Flight, was a masterclass expression of the NES library's primary gameplay trick of find new suit to change superpowers. The most extraordinary thing was getting the cartridge and finding out that unlike most ports of arcade games, the home version was 1-to-1 what I had played after that round of mini golf. It was every bit as good and revelatory and capped off the NES experience in style before Super Mario World made the next leap forward. I really can't recall another game that felt this much like a moon landing for me, though perhaps Final Fantasy VI came closest later. In a world full of sneakers, be a caribou shoe.
Yeah.
I don't think there is actual just arcade port of this. I think that's that NES 10-in-1.
Yeah, I almost called it a play choice, but that was different. Yeah,
it could have been a play choice as well.
Yeah,
that's a different thing. But there is a arcade version of Super Mario 1.
Yeah,
that's real weird to play. Like it looks different and it's strange. I don't know that there is one for 3.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not saying that they're correct. I'm just saying out loud to check my memory.
No, it's one of those things because the arcade version of 3 came here before the Wizard came out. Weirdly, but that was so localized, and the fact that it didn't hit homes or hit a bunch of stores all at once made it still feel incredibly rare. So you had to be incredibly lucky, like Doug was. In I think Southern California. Probably there were a couple of those hanging around. Yeah. No, so I can understand that. Yeah, that parody is neat. Parity, not parody. Yeah.
Nintendo's arcade games are really interesting. Mm-hmm. Because some of them are just different ports like that. Some of them are things that never came over here. Like that's how I played Goonies 1. Mm-hmm. A bunch. Was it being paired? The Pizza Hut that I went to as a kid had the Mario Brothers 1 Goonies 1, that awesome arcade cabinet that's shaped like a pyramid, where you can play both sides of it at a time, and the screens are like angled at a 45 degrees.
Yeah.
That thing I fucking love. I would love to get my hands on one of those.
Yeah.
Like just as an object. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Those little perfectly round buttons that are the player buttons.
Yep. Oh my gosh, there was the arcade version of Super Mario Brothers at a store on the way up to Lake Erie when my dad would take us up to go fishing on the boat up there. It was like the store closest to the trailer that they had rented up there to stay. So they would go in and I would just kind of camp out up at the front playing the arcade version of this game.
Nice.
Just because it was cool. It was the same game I knew, but different. Yeah.
Very cool. I those play choice, those things where it's like a quarter and you get to play for 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. I will still do that. Yeah. Like when I go to an arcade now, because sometimes I understand it's a bad value because time runs out as opposed to anything else. Mm-hmm. Right. Like as opposed to a failure of skill. But sometimes I just want to play the first 3 bosses of Punch Out.
Yeah.
When I'm in the arcade, I love those things.
Yeah.
Those are rad, even though they were kind of advertisements at the time.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
In and of itself.
Yeah.
Move on to Dark Messiah of Might and Magic responses. Thunk says via contact, Dark Messiah will be one of my top 10 WAF episodes in my opinion. I'm glad you liked it. A while back, I discovered a list of design mantras that Arcane apparently apply when designing their games. You can just do a search for design mantras specifically around Prey 2017. I'd be interested to know what you make of these. To pick one, say yes to the player. If it occurs to players and sounds like fun, let them do it. To what extent is this mantra reflected in their games? Do they succeed or fail? And is it a sensible mantra? I think it's a sensible mantra if you place equal emphasis on both parts of that. If it occurs and if it sounds fun, Yeah,
of course. Like I've read this thing before. Mm-hmm. It's really good. Yeah. It really a lot of it kind of plays as a manifesto of immersive sims.
Yeah.
Improvisation, world density, environmental storytelling, reuse the space,
ecology,
ecology, intentionality. All those are things I just value in a world, in a game, regardless.
Yeah.
Those are all things I love. Like, I think that this actually owns, and Arcane owns.
Yeah.
And go for them. Looking at now to refresh my memory, it is design mantras specifically for immersive sims. Mm-hmm. So of course that's what it seems like, but it's a really good set of design mantras for immersive sims, I think, mantras.
Yeah. I like this one. Fuck ladders. You just fall to your death anyway.
Yeah.
Ladders in games suck.
Yeah. Very, very good. Like in general, I think that they generally succeed and fail, and I think that most games benefit from this kind of stuff.
Yeah, at least as a defined ethos. Let's say something to aim for. So everybody on the team's on the same page. I think that it is a good thing to do.
Yeah, I get my patience for dungeons that don't have any sense of ecology has gone way down. Mm-hmm. Like if there's no place for people to eat or go to the bathroom, I don't believe in the space kind of period. Yeah. That's the minimum.
It feels purgatorial. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw this is a tangent, but I just wanted to tell you about this because I think it's cool.
Okay.
Somebody on Twitter mentioned this. I forgot about this. So the Eye of the Beholder games, you can find skeletons like in the ground as environmental storytelling.
Okay.
And they're inventory objects. You can take them to the priest to resurrect them, and they'll join your party.
Oh, shit.
As just people you found in the dungeon, like who had died there years ago. Like they can be resurrected. They still follow the same rules or whatever that ordinary corpses do.
Do they have their own character sheets? Like are they unique? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that neat?
That is really cool. Wow.
I don't know how many there are, but like for the Eye of the Beholder, that's fucking rad.
Yeah, I mean that early.
That's an ancient game.
Yeah, no, that rules. That's that's kind of like in Prey, where there's no such thing as just a corpse. Like everybody had a job in a place where they slept.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
that shit owns.
Yeah.
Robert says via Germany. Mm-hmm. Did not contact us. Just the whole country did it. Yeah. They spelled out this response in candles on a satellite photo. Really enjoyed listening to your episode and was happy to vicariously experience Dark Messiah again. I remember this game fondly for its satisfying kicking mechanic, but to be honest, that's mostly what stuck in my mind. I know for a fact that I finished the game twice, and I have some snippets of the game in my memory, mostly kicking orcs off into spikes or off ledges. The only other distinct memory I have is having to cheese the final boss fight because I decided to put all my skill points into sneaking and shooting the bow. I was only able to do chip damage and had to rope bow myself up into the rafters where you're able to hide behind some columns. I was all out of healing potions, and I think I was unable to perform healing magic, so almost any attack that hit was lethal or close to it. Even though I mostly remember the fight as being incredibly tedious, I'm happy that you're able to at least hide in the rafters. You just have to remember to get down quick enough to finish the boss before he starts healing up. And ride that quick save button like your life depends on it, because for me, it mostly did.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
It sounds miserable, but I do like that you can do it.
Yeah.
Like the idea that you can get up there and hide and be in a boss's blind spot, I think is good, not bad design.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like the way I'd like to do it, which is all that I'm saying. Yeah.
Not super fun, but I want the option to be there.
Yeah. Fenriliania writes in via contact saying, I originally bought this game from a bargain bin at Blockbuster, spending maybe $10 because I read an apparently negative review that described it as, quote, the adventures of Sir Kixalot Deathboot in the land of the conspicuously placed spike racks. that was the 1UP review that actually they called it that. How someone could write that sentence about a game they consider bad is beyond me. I was confused and underwhelmed by the RPG elements as I tried to figure out what use a forging skill would be in a linear game where I already had excellent daggers. So I wisely invested in the cool and interesting spells instead. I really enjoyed approaching it as a stealth game, because nothing is more stealthy than a swift patches kick into the cloudy abyss below. There are many ways Dark Messiah could be improved and made into a better game, but the only addition that I want is a Tony Hawk style combo meter.
That's a fun idea.
Yeah, do it like Bulletstorm with a club.
Yeah. Or like you play it like mercenaries mode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they put you in a place and enemies come in.
Yeah.
And you have all these environmental hazards to fire off.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand how Sir Kix-a-Lot Death Boot could ever be bad.
Right.
Like, especially like, why call out in the title the coolest thing about the game?
Exactly.
You know, there are weird, like, critical movements of things that happen where people will get, like, somebody will call out the best thing about a game as a negative.
Yeah.
I'll find the biggest thing I think about is when we covered, I remember I rewatched the Errant Signal video on Half-Life 2 before we covered it, and how the fact that every level had like a gameplay gimmick. Mm-hmm. He went to, he was like rolling his eyes at, like, okay, now it's a short turret section, now it's a vehicle section, now it's defense with this, and I'm like, that actually fucking owns, like, the fact that when you play the experience of playing Half-Life 2, that is such a great addition to the pacing that you're constantly doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, this game is good except for this one part. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
like, would you?
I respect you a lot as a critic, but this is a fucked up opinion.
Yeah. Would you rather like do all of that stuff a little bit in one level, just like dabbing, you know, just doing it like gameplay tapas instead of having it like courses at a meal? Like, I don't know. I'd kind of prefer the courses at a meal.
Well, and you're always doing a little bit of them anyway.
Yeah.
You know, not vehicle stuff, but a lot of the other ones. And they just move along at such a good pace. It's that Resident Evil 4 pacing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, you know, when you're done with a gimmick, you generally carry like the cool bare bones as like the best bare bones aspect of it forward into the next stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having a wide variety of those is the secret. Like, you can end up with like a Tomb Raider 2016 where there are just 3 modes you go through. It's just exploration, shooting, stealth. Yeah. Or, you know, but with if you have more modes, more good. Yeah. And that kind of thing.
I mean, taken to like an ad absurdum, that criticism just sounds like a criticism of levels having concepts.
Yeah.
Which I know they're not doing, but it could be a temptation if you took that as an ethos. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it reminds me of, like, you know, going back into the Mario discussion, right? Like, my favorite Mario games now are the 3D land and world games, which every level just has a very specific ethos.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to Mario 64, which is kind of like a big melange of whatever.
Right.
William says via contact, spiders used to be all over video games. Tragically, as graphics improved, spiders were increasingly left out. This happened measurably, but nobody talks about it. People feel more passionately about the censorship of vagina bones than they do about the erasure of spiders. Even Resident Evil, previously a bastion for extremely good video game spiders, just quietly stopped using them, and the entire journalistic apparatus did nothing to hold the franchise to account. What spiders we do get are stylized so hard that all their spidery edges have been sanded off. Skyrim, Fallen Order, Bloodborne, they've all got enemies that are technically spiders, but they don't really get it done. Most of the time, they don't even have the right amount of legs. Dark Souls 2 had good spiders, but also gave you a tool to nullify them. I grudgingly appreciate the game showing that spiders are more scared of us than we are of them, but I value fighting a creepy video game spider more than I value people learning how spiders work. I know this is selfish. Returning to Dark Messiah is a refreshing warm bath by comparison. Without any warning, it drops you into a pit and makes you fight the spideriest spiders that ever spited. It's honestly one of the lesser stretches of combat in the game, but I still love those little furry guys just for their ostentatious spideriness. They're unashamed and they deserve our support. Their queen kind of sucks and doesn't really look like anything, but that's true for most royals, so I won't hold it against them. Thank you both for drawing fresh eyes to this game that is 99% spider-free, but where that 1% manages to make it the most spidery game of all time. Signed, Willem. P.S. Grounded is the exception that extremely proves the rule. Webbed and EDF don't count because jumping spiders are just very small kittens. If you can think of any especially spidery games I'm overlooking, please let me know. Please also consider doing an entire Dispatch episode about spiders. Please also consider seeing the Casey Tatum classic Big Spider. Big Spider. There's not really a melody to Big Spider.
No.
Big spider.
He's just really upset about there being a big spider.
I think the spiders in Bloodborne are pretty good.
Yeah.
And a gigantic spider that comes down when you're in the nightmare zone, that's a good spider, man.
Yeah, it's a good spider.
It's not even talking about Spider-Man. He's a good spider.
I mean, if you hold every single video game spider up against the spiders that are in the guardhouse at Resident Evil 1, you're gonna be real disappointed. Them being all big and furry like that, and the sound that they make when they pat around,
crawling into the foreground because of the fixed camera.
Yeah. What I think, and this is something that Dark Messiah does very well, and also the Penumbra games, when you get into them, like an area that has been taken over by spiders, I think is the best part of it. Like, it's not enough for there just to be spiders. There has to be webs up and down the walls. It needs to change the geometry. There needs to be stuff cocooned. I think that is the bow that is necessary on the effects.
Yeah. I love a spider in a video game. I think they're good and creepy. Skyrim had good spiders, right? I thought, or Oblivion.
I can't. I couldn't tell you. When I think about Skyrim spiders, all I think is the mod that turns spiders into bears. Yeah.
Well, that was because of them being good spiders. I thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think Wheelam's got some spider demands that I can't quite.
I don't know that I can meet these.
Despite being told at length, I can't quite parse these spider demands. Give me pictures of spiders.
Well, it's one of those things. Grounded specifically, like they have that arachnophobia slider. I'm a little bit more upset by the low arachnophobia mode or whatever it is, where they are so abstract that it's like menacing orbs that are coming at you.
Yeah. Spiders aren't less scary when they have no legs.
See, Rom. Yeah.
It's kind of this weird little like evil orb with teeth.
Oh man, that was a good response though, Gwillem.
Yeah, that is very good.
Moving on to some responses about the sinking city. The Chesapeake Ripper writes in via contact saying, regarding setting the sinking city in post Shadow over Innsmouth world, have you read The Litany of Earth or any of the other modern Innsmouth books by Ruthana Emrys? Her writing was my introduction to the idea of Innsmouth folk being forced into internment camps after the raid / being treated in racist ways, modernizing Lovecraft in a thoughtful way. Additionally, are there other good modernizations of Lovecraft stories or concepts that you can think of off of the top of your head?
I have not read that.
Nope.
There's a lot of like updated Lovecraft stuff I have not read.
Yeah.
And I have a pretty limited vocabulary with this stuff.
Yeah.
Is just the truth. I liked Lovecraft Country a lot. The book. I have not watched the show. I only watched the first episode and I just stalled. The book is really good, I thought.
Yeah.
That's kind of my like very, very basic B answer.
Yeah, I don't know that I have an answer off the top of my head. See Unfilmable, where we talked about the adaptations and modernizations. Like, I thought Color Out of Space did a pretty good job of making that story, fleshed out in modern day. But also it was pretty. Yeah,
kind of obvious, but they're good.
Yes,
I think. Troy says via contact. Also, like, thanks for bringing my attention to that.
Yeah,
that story book. That sounds really cool. Troy says via contact, "Hey guys, I was really excited to hear y'all cover this game. It was definitely a weird ride, but mostly enjoyable. Kind of wish this developer had made a series of games rather than cram all the mythos in one, but the breadth of references on offer are really refreshing. I also love the updating of the Lovecraft stuff to be more in line with modern sensibilities. Any game where you can mow down the clan is great. Although I'm iffy about applying cultural relativism to Innsmouthers given the somewhat non-consensual nature of their origins, but does make an effort to make them not seem all that bad themselves, though. Also, I don't know if you guys saw this, but if you visit Throgmorton later in the game, he'll be serving a cake that looks like his deceased son. Extremely odd. Thanks for everything. You guys are great." I did see that, and I forgot to bring it up. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you to expand. What and why was what I was going to say.
It's real weird. Your guide is just like, it's a pretty good likeness. Yep. It's not the thing that I thought was worth noting about that.
Yeah.
There was a story about the thing that happened to me in the Singing City I meant to mention. I forgot during the episode. I was in, I think, the library.
Okay.
Or the police department. And there was a glitch where there was an NPC who was phased through the floor. Right?
Okay.
Like he was halfway in the floor. And I accidentally drew my gun, rather. So he started going, "Help, help." And I heard that without realizing I did it. So in my mind, the experience was I walked around a corner. I heard someone saying help. I walked around to go help them. And there was somebody stuck in the floor. And I was like, oh shit. Like, this is rad. Like, this is getting into some real weird dephase shit. But
it was just
I slowly figured it out.
Yeah. It was just a couple of unrelated things happening at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is all. But yeah, I did see the cake thing and totally forgot. I think the other reason why maybe I didn't mention it is that I was disappointed with how much Throgmorton just, like, I wanted to go back and tell him things and get his take on it.
Yeah, no.
And he kind of stops giving a shit.
And there's nothing. He just kind of is left dangling in an unsatisfying way, given how important he is for the first third of the game.
Yeah. Very weird.
Yeah.
So,
finally, here we have Nervous, who writes in via London, saying the inclusion of the KKK in the Sinking City is something that initially intrigued, but ultimately baffled me. I appreciate Frogware's attempt to address the relationship between racism and Lovecraft, but this one fell down pretty hard for me. I get that portraying real-life racism in your game is a big handle with care moment, for which Frogware probably didn't feel equipped. But in that case, maybe they shouldn't have included a multi-ethnic KKK discriminating against fish people. While Sinking City portrays discrimination against an oppressed minority, it's a cop-out. Fantasy racism in a 1920s America where people of all colors seemingly live in fish-smelling harmony. Ultimately, I felt this sugar-coated the KKK in a way the devs likely didn't intend. No doubt, partly due to the fact that they're not American. But if you're going to use that iconography, you have to go all the way. Otherwise, why is it even there? Long way to say, they probably could have just changed the name and the hoods, and it wouldn't have been as garish to me.
I didn't have that experience with it. It just didn't feel garish and bad to me. It didn't feel whitewashy.
Yeah.
Personally, to me.
It clanged and felt odd, but I also didn't dwell on it.
Yeah, I don't like. I actually like it. It felt like it made sense to me. Like, one of the things that is a trope that makes sense to me. It's one of the. It's in, like, I remember reading it in the introductory matter to the first, like, Shadowrun book I ever had, was that they talked about how, like, skin color based racism had fallen away because there were trolls and shit around.
Yeah.
You know, that's an idea that I am sympathetic to, that, like, racism is like this pond scum that finds its level.
Yeah.
You know, like, people are going to be discriminatory, but they're not picky about it because it's born of ignorance. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So people will default to things like fish people over color stuff because they're just, you know, being ignorant bigots.
Yeah, they'll always be bigots, but the focus is going to go towards kind of the most glaring and obvious thing, and then there's no place that it stops, because eventually it gets down to, you know, Italians and Irish and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't bother me, not trying to take that away from you, but it didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for responding. We appreciate you. If you have things to say about February's games, which are Professor Layton and the Curious Village, Warhammer, Dark Omen, or State of Decay, hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact by February 15th.
Yeah. And if you have things to say about March's games, the deadline for that is March the 15th. Again, duckfeed.tv/contact. Hey, Gary, what are we playing in March?
Ooh, well, March is fun. We got March. The first thing we got up is Inscription. The buzzed about many people's game of the year from 2021.
It's neat.
It is from the Pony Island people. So that's going to be a big spoiler one. So
yeah, maybe listen with care on that one. Yeah.
Yes, especially if you have any interest. Then after that, we're doing a coal pick.
Yeah. We're doing Aliens versus Predator 2 for the PC. There's a distribution of that all patched up that you can get a hold of very easily just by Googling. I had a lot of fun with this, and I've been making so many comparisons to it in everyday life that I just thinking about this game. It came up for me. It's short. It's a fun monolith shooter, and we're going to play it. God damn it. It has 3 different campaigns. You play as the Space Marines. You play as the aliens. You play as the Predators
and the Protoss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Taro alien. After that, we're going to be doing a game I was not super familiar with. That is a sponsored game, King's Bounty.
Yeah.
It is a game that is King's Bounty: The Legend. It is a game that is the forerunner to Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. I liked Heroes of Might and Magic a lot. It's been a while since we've done a game like that.
Yeah.
Really kind of strange hybrid between role-playing and turn-based tactical gaming.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Me too. Yeah. Looks cool. And then finally, what are we doing for our premium episode, Cole?
The premium one this is an executive produced episode. This is going to be Until Dawn.
Indeed.
Yeah. Kind of like, I mean, aside from some Life is Strange games, like the cinematic adventure game that I think works the best. Like, this is the good one.
I played it recently for the first time. I'd been putting it off forever, and I played it with my girlfriend.
It owns.
It's great. Yeah. I loved it. I can't wait to fight about, just while I'm having phantom fights with Will Hughes on other shows. Will thinks that game is a puzzle game to try to keep teens alive. I think it is an expressive game to make the best slasher movie you can.
Oh, yeah. No.
So that is, we'll talk about that philosophical split.
Yeah. And it may seem strange to put a story-based game in the premium there. However, there's lots of cool stuff about the way that game hangs together, and I think those conversations are best had like in the generalities. So big thumbs up for that. Are you playing as an actor? Are you role playing as those characters? Are you playing as the director? Well, what are you doing? Yeah.
It has a freedom to how you want to take it. Like, Will's approach to it is valid because it operates as both. It's surprisingly deep.
Yeah.
For what it is, and also just like a blast. Like, it's very fun. The characters are wretched. And I say that in a good way. Like, they're so gross and hateable and horny and like just repulsive little shits that all need to die.
I streamed this like 6 years ago, and everybody who was watching, I was like, why would anybody play this? All these people fucking suck. And I was like, that's fun. Like that's what this is. Have you ever watched a slasher movie and liked anybody in it?
You're not supposed to like them. They're horrible. Yeah. And then we get to play the What is Peter Stormare's accent game, and we get to see like a surprisingly awesome term from Rami Malek, who's in this for some reason.
Yeah.
He's great.
It's awesome.
Like, the moment in which he turns, he does fucking work. It's a really good performance.
Yeah.
I think this game was great. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Same.
So yeah, that's March. We have April working out. We right now we are booking for April and May. still for executive produced episodes. Some games a little bit further in the future, but not too many. We still have lots of space. If you'd like to produce something, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah.
And do so. Otherwise, just give us $5 a month to get those premium episodes. The Sinking City episode, if I say so myself, was really good.
Yeah.
I think that was a really good and fun episode of the show.
I agree. I have heard people say. Yeah.
So if you want those, $5 a month gets you all of them, the old ones and the ones that are coming out.
Yeah. And if you can't, you can also go and leave a rating or review in iTunes. That is always appreciated. Yeah.
Indeed.
iTunes or Spotify or whatever directory you use. If there are reviews, please leave one there for us. Can't describe exactly how their algorithms work. They keep that secret, but all I know is that it vaguely helps.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know, that's nice to see. And it balances out chuds who are like, stop being political.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, you want to balance those out. Be a force for good if you listen to us. Yeah. Be a force for chud. And we'll see you next week with Professor Layton.
Yes, we will.
One of the weirdest protagonist and character sets in games. Great amounts of secret weirdness.
We're gonna dine on this.
Yeah, he's a real fucking weirdo. So he's gonna get real weird with it. Umbasa.